Cheers.
Woo! Look at that. Almost spilled. All right, everybody. This is the podcast called A Better Life. I almost said this is the Better Life podcast. This is not the Better. This is A Better Life with Brandon Turner, and today with my co-host, Mr. Alex Felice.
What up?
What's up, Alex?
I'm very happy to be doing this with you.
I'm happy to be doing this with you. So we are here with our good friends. We're going to introduce them in just a minute, but first we're going to talk story for a second.
Talk story.
So the name of this show may be Talk Story. It's a phrase that's often used in Hawaiian culture, which we are not Hawaiian. So we are definitely borrowing from a Hawaiian culture term called
honoring.
We're honoring the Hawaiian culture, which the idea of Talk Story is like, let's just hang out and talk, sometimes late into the night, and let's break down all the walls between us, and let's just have a good time and figure out who you are, who I am, and who these beautiful people sitting next to us are. So we ask them, who are the beautiful people sitting next to us?
I'm Lexi.
And I am Cameron.
Coffee with Cam?
Coffee with Cam, guys.
Famous
That's what we're
Coffee
doing
with
right here.
Cam.
I'm famous for that.
From TikTok. Mm-hmm. You're clearly known for your TikTok skills.
Yes, people know me worldwide.
You've also done some real estate.
A little bit, yeah.
All right. Well, I want to get into that. But before I do, let's start earlier in your career. You've not been in real estate. You've not been in business for long, correct?
No, 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
And currently, what is your, I guess, like last year, here we are recording early 2023. Let's go 2022. What did you guid do, like real estate wise? What did that look like? And then I'll go back and we'll fill in the gaps.
We did probably, let me think. Off the top of my head, we probably did right around 100 homes, maybe a little bit more than 100 homes. Now, those weren't all flips. Those weren't all rentals. The majority of them were wholesale deals. So we probably did, if I had to guess, 55 wholesale deals, probably 30 flips, and probably 10 to 15 like BRRRR deals, rental deals.
That was 2020. That was your first year?
2022.
That was just this past year.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I may have said the opposite.
Did you say 2020?
I meant 2022 if I said 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was last year. So I just want to know, like, in a given year, what you're at. Like, you know, like you're
we've
about 100 a year
averaged
now.
100 a year. Like, since 2020, we did like close to, we probably did 80.
So you went from like 0 to almost 100
Yeah.
right away. All right. So I want to get into all that. But before we do, I want to get to know you guys a little bit more.
Love it.
All right.
Awesome.
Actually, before we get into any of that, I think one of the first questions I like to ask on the show is, what breaks your heart? In other words, what do you want us to support? See, on this podcast, every guest, we ask where they want the ad revenue from this episode to go towards. So is there a specific charity or a cause, just in general, that you want the ad revenue from the show going toward? And why?
Do you got something?
Hope Haven in Rwanda.
Yes.
Tell us.
Yeah.
I used to work at a church, which we'll talk about that, but there is an organization there. It's called Hope Haven. And it is the best. We've being in the church world have seen a lot of really great organizations, and this just is a head above the rest. It's amazing. So it's a school in Rwanda. What I love about it is they're very, very focused on not allowing, like, we've gone over there for vision trips, not, mission trips, because they're like, everything that we do here, we want it to support the local community. So we want the teachers to be local. We want, if people are working on this property, we want it to be people that we hire in the community. It's just an amazing school.
Dude, have you, first of all, yes, we will definitely put all ad revenue from the show toward that. Have you read the book, The Very Worst Missionary?
I have not. I've read When Helping Hurts. It might be
probably similar.
Yeah.
Probably similar. So have you read Very Worst Missionary?
No, but I'm incredibly intrigued.
All right. So The Very Worst Missionary is this great book. Is this missionary lady who swears a lot, which is something you don't usually see in a Christian book. And so, but she's like the swearing missionary. But she's very funny and very clever writer. But she went to, I think it was Mexico, I think is where she spent years, her and her family down there as missionaries. And she just kind of exposes a lot of the, I won't say scam. They're not necessarily scams. Sometimes they are. But just like the fact that you're a lot of times mission trips go down there and then you go build a house, and they just took all the work from the laborers that could have done the work there. And now those guys are sitting there broke because all the Americans are going down to build a house for them. And it exposed a lot of that kind of concept.
I was a missionary for a year in Belize. That was very similar. It was a great organization. I believe they had incredible hearts in what they were doing, but they led trips down there. And I was just on site, and it was like trip after trip after trip, but it was to the same exact community every single time. And we did the same things every single time. And it didn't help the community. It actually turned the community into a community of people that were like, hey, there's another group coming down next week.
Yeah,
they
come
can
get-
build bunk beds
yeah.
for us, or they can do this, or they're going to bring us food. And it didn't help grow
skills with-
that community at all, which Hope Haven is the exact opposite in
Yeah.
every way, shape, and form. So
That's cool. Yeah, there's a
What were the names of the books?
the one that I read was The Very Worst Missionary, and you mentioned when.
helping hurts.
Yeah, and I haven't read that, but I heard
Yeah.
that's probably less swearing, but probably the same concept.
Yeah, same concept where it's just like, hey, sometimes we think we're doing something great and we're not at all.
Yeah, I think there's there's a lot of that in the Christian world, and I don't know if it's always even bad. I mean, let's say you go down there and you build a house for a family, right? And you send 20 or 30 Americans down there and they build a house. You know, the 20 to 30 Americans could have given money, cash, given it to contractors. They could have built the house, but in all reality, that wasn't going to happen. So sometimes it requires going down there. But one of the points that they make, and maybe this is similar to what you're saying, the vision trip. This woman in this book makes this point about it would be better usually for take all the money you're going to. Let's say the mission trip costs $2,000 per person. There's 20 people going. That's $40,000. Go on vacation for $2,000 to that same town, same village. Stay in the hotel, order room service, do everything, and just spend the same amount of money on vacation, have way more fun, and actually supports the economy, which helps the people and all that.
So that's exactly when we've been over there. I've been over there multiple times, and that's what we do. Where we're tourists there, and we're not helping at all. We're just seeing the need and the need being met by the people of that town. And so it's an incredible place, an incredible experience. And the one caveat, is that the right way to say it?
Sure.
That I would say is with those, because I don't want to knock on mission trips, because I've seen so many people that they go and they help build a house and they're impacted and and all of a sudden it turns into them donating tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and like committing their life to it. So I think there is a lot of amazing things that can happen from
100%.
that. But if you do a vision trip, the exact same thing can happen,
Isn't this part of the problem with all subsidies when you try to, force some sort of economic situation, then there's some unintended consequences. I mean, projects are a terrible, everybody knows what a project is now, but the idea was low income housing.
Yeah.
And then it turns into, slumps.
Yeah, so it's not like the government's any better at this either. Like the government just throws money, they're like, here, fix it.
Yeah, you had said, this is sometimes a problem of, missionaries. And I'm like, this is a problem of anytime you try to, subsidize something.
Yeah, that's true. No, so Alex, coming from outside the Christian, religious sphere that we have lived in, how have you looked at that missionary? Have you been in, seen it? Are you pretty negative against it? Like, where do you come from?
Nobody's gonna like my answer.
I was expecting.
That's why I asked it, man.
Coming
That's
from
why
the
I asked it.
outside,
Perspective.
proselytizing is one of the main tenets of the Christian religion, and it's one of my least favorite aspects because it sort of insinuates that you know what's better for somebody else.
Sure.
And maybe sometimes you do, but it starts with, and this is my sort of old opinion, it starts with like, I'm going to go to your place and tell you sort of how to live. And it comes with resources and people that help. But it definitely can be muddy. And sometimes, there's also, you go into poor countries and you tell them to stop, using birth control and these sort of like things that don't always help isn't what's always best. So I've come along now. I mean, I think the majority of philanthropy in the planet is done by Christian organizations. I believe that to be true. So I've come a long way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something, even as I learn more about religion and Christianity, I pretty much I do not proselytize.
It's a weird concept though, because I 100% agree with you, but at the same time, like I think that. So there's a story. There's a guy, Penn and Teller. They're magicians, I believe, and they're outspoken atheists. And one of them, I don't know which one, was telling the story about a time where at the end of a show, a guy came up and he gave him a Bible and he wrote him a note, basically proselytizing and saying like, here's what I believe. And he posted a YouTube video about it, and he said essentially, this isn't going to change, my worldview. I'm still going to be an atheist, but he said, I loved this guy that came up and took the time to write me the note because he said, if Christians truly did believe what they say they believe, that there is a heaven and a hell, and that people that are saved are going to go to heaven, he's like, I would expect every Christian, if they truly believe that, to be out all day, every day, figuring out a way to reach lost people. And he ended the video with saying, one of the reasons I'm not a Christian is because they're not doing that. And so I do think you can be overly weird, and you can be like, it's such a weird thing because I don't know the right answer to that. But does that make sense at all? Like,
it does, and I don't want to go on this tangent forever, so I apologize. But the one thing I'll say is, in my life, when I was very early on, I met a lot of people who were Christian in name but had poor behavior.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten, had more life experience, and the most interesting thing is, as I've spent time with more successful people, more mature, more abundant-minded people, the people who I find that are the best Christians speak about it the least, and I find myself drawn to their behavior, and then find out later what they believe. And that is a whole different that's a very new experience for me, and that's a very enlightening sort of experience for me.
So reminds me of that. Do you remember that quote? I can't remember who said it. Maybe you guys want to know. But it's like, I think it was basically, preach the gospel always, but when necessary, use words.
Yeah.
Right. And I've always loved that idea of everything.
That.
Yeah. If instead of proselytizing, like, hey, you're wrong. Like, maybe you believe that. Maybe, I do believe what I believe is right. You believe what you believe is right. Or at least like some things in our life we believe are right. But if you just go and start telling people that they're wrong and that's not going to get very far. I'd rather just, hey, this has worked for me. That's why I'm a big fan of this is my story. Do what you want with it. Like that's my only that's my only, I guess, proselytizing is just like, hey, this is what my story was. So I don't know. Maybe yours is similar. I don't know. Yeah. And that seems to, if it works, it works. It's not like we have to go and, save everybody. So
should we take out the segment of this episode of praying over Alex?
The tongues? Was that a little weird?
Exactly. Should we take that segment? Should we get that segment out?
All right, let's get back to your guys' story. So I know you spent some time working in the church, and then you abandoned all faith and love and family and decided to just go into greedy money making. So let's get into that story today here on A Better Life. A more sinful life with Lexi and Cam. You guys met in high school, right?
We
Even
met in
earlier than
second
that.
grade,
No
first
way.
grade, yeah.
Cute.
Tell our love story.
Do you remember
babe.
his pickup line in second grade? Was like, "Can I use that crayon?"
Yeah, no. So
Can you help me get this crayon unstuck from my nose?
Yeah,
Was that something like
exactly.
that? He seems like the type that would
Tell
shove a
the
crayon
story
up his
about my
nose.
dad.
Oh boy. Okay. So his dad was my pastor growing up. I went to their church. Our families were friends. We were in the same friend group. And his dad brought me into his office one Sunday and said, I have 4 boys, and I would like our families to be intertwined through marriage at some point.
Her parents are
This
rich.
truly happened. This truly happened. He laid out all 4 boys. He said, I've got Carson. He is the Marion type. I've got Cameron. He's just for fun. And I've got Cooper and Connor. They're a little bit younger, but they're not much younger, and they all go to the same school as you. So tell me which one you're most interested in so I can be praying in the right way. This actually happened.
He was
And
joking. That sounds really weird for the normal person.
Yeah, but
So it's
you guys
all a
did get
joke.
married.
We truly did get married. And guess who I picked in that moment, though?
Was it me?
This guy.
Of course.
This
I've
guy.
always been a 10.
Yes. I guess he had me at fun. I don't know, but
sorry, I shouldn't
Wow.
say.
in that moment, yeah. So we
That's a cool
go way
story.
back. It really is. It might sound creepy in a way, but it wasn't. He was, yeah. I picked Cam at 10 years old, or I
10
don't
years,
know.
yeah, it's probably
Maybe
10
I was
years
a
old.
little
So
older
here's a
than
question.
10.
Would you have picked Cam had you not visioned it out that day? Right? If you had
Oh
picked another
my
brother,
gosh.
could you have been with that brother? Right now, sitting on this couch here in Hawaii, would you be with another brother?
Well,
Right? Like, how much did saying that out loud
Right.
guide that later on in life? I don't know.
He asked the question. I verbalized it.
Yep, and
Yes, it's
it-
Cameron. And then it happened.
Yeah.
You're on to
you're,
something.
you're skipping a part of going to prom with my brother your sophomore year.
I
of high
wasn't going to
school.
talk about that.
They did not kiss, I hope. If they did.
No, I promise. That
okay.
did not
Are we
Are we
happen.
getting an exclusive right now?
Yeah,
Are we
but,
finding some new information?
Yeah, I think we need to
My
have this
first
conversation deeper.
confession.
Lexi, earmuffs, Cam. Lexi,
I'll walk
just
off this,
between us.
I'll walk off this podcast
Just
right now.
between us. Was there a little kiss?
No,
Maybe like a little
no,
like
no.
a little close
And
bumping and
honestly,
grinding on the dance
thank
floor.
God.
We were
No.
texting
Okay,
the
all
entire
We were
time.
awkward. We were so awkward. It
Okay.
wasn't anything but
Wanted to go to
Getting into
prom,
prom.
and she couldn't get to prom without, because I was at a different school at the time.
right.
Yeah.
No, I also
so you
was
used my brother to get to prom. That's messed up.
That is,
Now
I
I'm
take
hurt.
that. I fully accept that. That
Wow.
was messed up. I was a sophomore. I couldn't get into prom without a date. All my friends were going. So
And we
yeah.
we were talking at the time too. I remember we were texting all night that night.
I don't
is
know
weird.
about that.
Wow.
I don't know about
But-
that. Anyway.
How old are you
I
guys?
ended up
We didn't
with
even have phones in high school, so you guys are way younger than me.
30. We're both 31.
Okay, yeah, 7 years,
I'm
6 years
30?
younger.
One.
Oh.
30?
No, your birthday was February 7th. You're 31. Don't lie.
Ouch. How's that-
Don't lie.
how's that
People
feel?
could Google you and find that out.
I've known you guys a few months. This is the first time that Cam has been
Yeah, he just
like
bested
on
Lexi. Yeah.
it, and Lexi has been wrong.
Lexi's-
Yeah, usually it's me
Usually I'm
busting
like,
him.
she runs the entire operation and he is
31.
beautiful.
31. Well, I just
He's the beauty, I'm the brains, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can go with that.
okay. I'll take it. I will take that.
Has that always been the case, or is that just in the last few years?
You're the brain.
I'm not the beauty.
Is she the brains and the beauty, and you're
She
the fun?
is. I am there for comedic relief
Okay.
most of the time.
I like the comedic relief.
Yes.
It's a valuable role to play.
It really is. I 100% believe that. So.
Okay, so you guys eventually got married.
So we got
We did.
Okay.
We got married. I had just turned 21 and she
Okay.
had just turned 20.
20.
So like just turned 20. And what was that? 10 coming up on 11 years ago. And we packed up the week we got married and we moved to Colorado. So this was in 2012 and I finished up school at Colorado Christian University and we lived in Colorado for what, 8 years or
8
so?
years?
Yeah. 8 years.
8 years?
You worked at a church then.
Yeah, so I graduated from Colorado Christian University. I did the missionary gig, which was basically leading mission trips. From that, I started working at an incredible church in Colorado. Absolutely loved the church, got to do that. I did multiple roles there.
So rolling in six figures there for sure.
Oh man!
For sure. Wait till you hear what I was doing.
250.
To supplement.
Yeah, I was bringing in at least 200. That 250,000 was my lowest year. So no, I'm
whatever.
kidding.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, divide
I
that
was
by
gonna say
10.
$250
Yeah,
a month might be more
divide that
accurate.
by
That's more
10
like
and-
it.
Yeah, definitely
So-
closer. All right.
So that's what I did, and then she.
I worked at a barber shop and
Like
I
cutting hair?
absolutely loved it. I cut hair.
Do you still cut hair?
I do.
She was the
Why are we
best barber in Denver.
occasionally.
Yeah,
She
why are
won
we-
Why
like
are we going to Phyllis? I mean, we
Yeah.
love Phyllis.
she won.
Shout
like,
out to Phyllis.
We love Phyllis.
We love
She
Phyllis.
was like Colorado's barber of the year.
Oh yeah,
Really?
some
Also,
straight
but-
edge shaves. Oh yeah.
No way.
Oh, they're so
Legit.
fun.
Do you cut his hair now?
I do.
But
Yes.
But
see,
Lexi
I
can come
get
to us.
such
Phyllis
worse-
isn't going to come to
That's
us.
one of our
She won't
biggest.
come to us.
Yeah, you could come
At
to
least
us.
not yet.
I could.
One of our
yes.
biggest-
If we were doing it
fights,
together,
though?
she probably would come together. Like if it was like one after another.
Two
Dude,
for
we just
one
came up
deal?
with a real.
Same
We're
place?
batching it.
Batching.
Like, I mean, like not like bacheloring it,
This
but
is-
like we're
we're batching
batching our
it.
haircuts
This
together.
is called
Okay.
economies of scale.
Yes, that's what that
Economies of
is.
scale.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No joke though, some of our biggest fights have came when she's cutting my hair because I'm like, you're not giving me the same service you'd give somebody else. Like,
Oh, yeah,
you're not-
100%.
Like she's like,
Yes.
just turn your
shut
head this
up.
way,
Yeah, no.
shut
Like,
up. I'm
come
gonna
on,
do this, and I'm
Cam.
like, no, give me the. Well, we're not gonna get into it right now. But
Wait, no, actually, I do want to get into that because I have this whole thing. I have this whole thing about like, you go to a restaurant where you know the owner or you know the waiter or whatever the case, the waitress. And so, like, should the people you know give you, like, should you wait when it's really busy because they say, well, they're my friends, so they'll wait and still give me a tip? Or should you get better service because you're friends? And it's like,
when it's your wife, I think you should get better service.
really? You don't think you should get the
you
leftovers from her
don't
day?
tip
I do
me.
get the leftover.
What do you think? What do you think, Lexi?
Ooh, yeah. If you're not tipping her,
You didn't
I mean,
tip
I do.
me.
I try to.
sex doesn't count, man.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not a tip. All right.
Yeah.
Don't pull that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Do you know Heather actually cut my hair up until I met Phyllis? Actually,
I
when we
think I
moved
did
here.
know
No
that.
way.
I think
Yeah,
we've
Heather.
talked about
Lexi
that
can cut your
before.
guys' hair. We've got all of the stuff. She's got like.
I do.
I'm
have
also
that.
not tipping.
Yeah, but we
Oh,
like,
then
we like Phyllis.
I don't
though.
know about that.
Phyllis is good.
Phyllis
but,
is great, yeah.
No, you
no,
should go
I-
to Phyllis because then you get the whole experience. If I come, it's just in the kitchen and,
Yeah.
you know, it's not the whole thing.
but it
I
could
love
be
about-
quicker.
You need the big chair. You need the beer that they serve.
The thing you don't
need
get
to
from
be able to
barbers,
get
though.
the shampoo.
Does she sit in your lap while she's cutting your hair ever?
No.
Oh,
is
it's
that
the
a
best.
thing?
No, it's a thing. Heather will she's like, getting my hair. So she just come and like sit down on my lap. And I'm like, this should be a thing in the world where like you go and get your hair cut
Right.
and your wife will sit in your lap while cutting your hair.
Yeah,
It's the,
you've
it's
never
the
done
best
that before.
haircut thing in the
Oh,
world.
yeah.
That would
Sorry
creep
about
me
that.
out.
No, it's
so
the greatest
bad.
thing in the world. I wouldn't want anybody else doing it to me, but having your wife cut your hair, it's a very intimate moment.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We
I'm a big fan.
typically the
I'm
fight
glad you had
happens.
that moment. We have
happens
not
before
had that moment.
Yes.
I want to encourage you next time you're cutting his hair.
Uh-huh.
It's just a
Okay.
better angle. That's what
I've
it is.
gotten,
Yeah.
but I've
No, you
gotten
gotta
way
see.
less picky.
Yeah.
Where now it's just like just get it over. You can see
yeah.
with my hair now. It's like just
Your hair looks good.
In
I
and
like
out.
it. I'm a little jealous.
thank you,
Yeah,
thank you. I
okay.
will take that.
So you we'll go from haircuts to you got into real estate. How'd that happen? Let's go into that journey.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. So I was a pastor, and I was joking. I did not make anywhere near $250,000 a year. It was an amazing church, but we were living in Denver, Colorado, which at the time was very expensive, and neither of us had high-paying jobs, and we were broke. We were literally paycheck to paycheck every single month. It was like, hey, how are we going to make ends meet? We loved what we were doing, and we were having a blast. We loved each other. We lived in a beautiful area.
Skied 40 times a
Yeah,
year.
it was so we loved our lives, and so there was never enough like pressure to change that, I guess. But then we had our first kid. So we have 3 kids. I don't know why I had to think about that for a second, but we have
Yeah.
3 kids. We have a 5-year-old Riley, a 3-year-old Callie, and a 1-year-old Cade. And so we had
He's only one.
one. Yeah,
He's
he's
one.
one.
A little
He'll be
tank for
2 in
one.
a few weeks.
Oh yeah, no,
was fighting with me today.
I think a few days, right?
Few
April
days.
11th. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
yep.
So coming up, he is a tank though. Yeah, so we have 5, 3, and 1. And Riley was born in November of 2017, and we were still like, once we had a kid, we were like even more poor because, you know, I remember we added up like we were paying for daycare. Or actually we were paying for a nanny, and then we added up like what she was making, and after like paying for the nanny, it was like you were making like $2 an hour or something
Yeah.
like that. And so all that to say, we were stressed out because of money. And then when Riley was about a year old in the fall of 2018, we gave her peanut butter for the first time. And thinking it was going to be a cute moment. I think you even recorded it.
I recorded
I
it.
wasn't there, thankfully, because I'd have been freaking out. But she went into anaphylactic shock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was bad. And so again, I wasn't there. So
How old was she when she had that?
she? Was about 10 months, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Under 8. She was 8 months.
8 or it was so 8 months old, and started swelling up, stopped breathing. Lexi rushed her to the hospital. They EpiPenned her, hooked her up to IVs and steroids. I don't know, all this stuff. But at the time when that's going on, you're not like pulling up your insurance card and seeing like, hey,
What's
where do I
in
need
network?
to go? Yeah. So we actually took her to a out-of-network hospital. It was actually one of those like 24-hour urgent care type places, and I don't think our insurance covered that at the time. And so we got hit with it was over $10,000 a hospital bill. It was close to $15,000, which at the time when you're paycheck to paycheck, that could be $1 million. They could have sent us $1 million bill, and it would have felt the same because $15,000 was just something that we could never have came up with. And I remember when we got that bill that night specifically, we were sitting at the dinner table and we were just talking about life, and we were like, this is not the way that we want to live life. Every time we get a hospital bill or there's a medical emergency, which hopefully is not often, but medical emergency.
A car breaks down.
Or we want to go on vacation, like we did not have any margin whatsoever in our lives. And so that was the night that we decided we want to do something else. We didn't know what that was. But we were like, we want to figure out like a side hustle, actually is what we thought of at the time. We want to figure out a side hustle to make more money. And so naturally, I had heard this quote that's been floating around for years of like 80 or 90% of self-made millionaires do it through real estate. And so we had zero real estate experience. I have never picked up a hammer in my life. I'm the most unhandy person that there is. But my thought was, let's do real estate.
Let's
that's
do
what
it.
everybody does.
You guys didn't own your house in Denver at the
We
time?
did. So we did own our house in
Okay.
Denver. So we had bought our house in Denver. But outside of that, we had zero. I mean, so I guess there was experience in just buying that and going through the mortgage process and whatnot.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, that matters a little bit because I think that the process of buying your first house is a little daunting for most people. I mean, I don't mean to, but yeah, I was just
It
curious.
gave us some confidence for sure.
Yeah.
Of,
That
can
okay,
do it
we
once,
know
you
how
can
to
do it
buy
100
a
times.
house.
That quote, by the way, I think it's Carnegie that I always attribute it to, right? I think it's total actual BS. I don't think that's true in any way, shape, or form. Like, I bet you, like, I don't think we should discount it because it does get a lot of people into real estate. I just see how many influencers share that all over their social medias, and I'm always like, there's no way 90% of millionaires became that way through real estate.
Maybe
it's like
90% of millionaires own real estate.
it could be that, but even that, I mean, Carnegie was 120 years ago, so
Yeah.
even that was like unlikely. But it doesn't matter, really.
It worked
right?
for us
It worked,
because
right?
I was like, I want to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And I don't have any other skills. You know, I gotta. So
If truth is a lie, but it produces what you need to get accomplished, is it okay, Alex?
No.
Okay, I
Absolutely
agree.
not.
I agree. Okay. What if it's on social media though?
If it's on social media, then 90% of on social media is a lie.
yeah.
Totally agreed. All right. Anyway, so you think real estate's going to be the way. What'd you then do?
So I downloaded a book. I downloaded a book.
This
Can
is
you
where the
guess
story
what it
gets
is?
good.
Yes.
All right, lean forward, everyone. This is
Everybody lean
exciting.
forward. This is going to be the best part.
All right, I'm excited for this
What
part.
book? I have no idea this story. What book? Please tell me.
It was a book by
Handsome, strong.
David Green.
No, it was not David Green. It was not. It was.
no, I is it? So I don't. I'm. Is it The Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing?
Probably was the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate
Yeah.
Investing, maybe. Or it could be the book on rental property investing. I don't know. It was one of mine.
That was
you loved
my
it so much.
Bible
He
for a
loved it so
while.
much. You can't remember the title.
No,
That's
it
what's
was
really
life
powerful.
changing. I mean, because you talked about you like building your your portfolio, and you talked about in one of the chapters you talked about how you can become a millionaire in 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's how to invest in real estate.
Is that how to
It was
invest in
me and
real
Josh,
estate?
Yeah, Josh Dorkin and I.
Okay.
I think it was
Wow,
that
that
one.
Josh, he's incredible.
Yeah, I really got the most out of what Josh.
Yeah.
but you read it because I did listen to it.
Yeah,
so
the audio
you read
book,
it.
I read that one.
Yes,
I believe.
yes.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
Confident
I
that
read
you
the
read
couple
it.
early ones. I didn't read the later ones. I think it was that one I read.
You read it. Whatever
And
book
it might have been a
was.
book on rental property investing. That's the big one that like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anyway, they're all amazing. They're all the best books ever
They're all the
written.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
All
but
of
seriously.
them collectively.
So it changed our lives. So that was in 2019. So Riley had her episode in 2018, like the end of 2018 or fall of 2018. We were like, we want to do something. We don't know what it is. Listen to that book. And was like, hey, let's like get into real estate. In 2019 is when we like decided to. So I started looking in Denver for properties, but Denver had became so expensive at that point, and you just couldn't make the numbers work. And I didn't really know how to make the numbers work, but just from what you had taught me, I was like, it's not going to work here. And so we decided in 2019, hey, we're going to move back to Missouri, which is where we grew up at. It's where we met. We're going to move back to Missouri, and we're going to invest in real estate.
Is that because of real estate you moved back there? Sorry, Alex, I know you were to jump. You moved back there for real estate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, we
I
did.
love that.
Yeah.
There's a book by Stephen Pressfield called "Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be," and there's a whole chapter in there that just says we interviewed him on the mentor call for the Better Life Tribe, and we'll get him on the podcast at some point soon. But in this chapter, there's a whole chapter. There's a lot of different ways that phrase, that "Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be," could be played out. But one of them is physically move to the city. If you want to be an actor, go live in LA or New York. It's just like everyone's like, oh, I can't find any acting gigs. That's because you're in Oklahoma. Like, I can't find any real estate deals. That's because you're in Denver. Like, so I love that you guys did that. You're like, we're gonna make a life change because it's that important.
So, and I kind of want to pull it up on my phone. So there's a letter that Lexi wrote me at the night we were leaving. Like, she took me out on one last date night, which I should have been doing that, but you did that.
I got it. I got you.
So like to all of my favorite places in Denver. So we went to like my favorite restaurant and we did our favorite things. And then at the end of the night, she gave me this letter where it was basically like, I'm not going to get emotional talking about it now, but I have before, where it's like, she just talks about how like, hey, we're leaving a place that we've fallen in love with, because we had so many great friends. We loved it there, but we're doing this for our family. And like, I believe in us and I trust in us. And like, we're going to crush it in Missouri and it's going to be amazing. And, you know, this was 3 years ago when we were literally, you know, our net worth was negative $60,000, where, you know, and she wrote me this note, and it's unreal. It's on our wall that I look at all the time. But yeah, we decided like, hey, we're going to leave Denver and we're going to move to Missouri and get into real estate. So
You read this book, and it obviously had a profound effect on your relationship. But, you know, a lot of people talk about, how do I get my spouse on board? So you go and read this book. What's the conversation like when you get home? You're like, hey, I solved all our problems. Here's what we're going to do. I've never picked up a hammer, but now we're going to go flip houses. Also, we're moving across the country. Like, how does that conversation, and you're on board, obviously, so.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't ever feel like him convincing me. I was sold from the get-go. So maybe it is a little different situation. I had been listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast for a while at that point.
Well,
And
like I read the book, and then we started listening to the podcast, and we were kind of all in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I always say media changes mindset.
yeah.
Right. So like, if you want your spouse to like have them listen to the podcast. Like,
Yeah.
I probably heard that 1,000 times from spouses over the years of teaching, is like, oh yeah, my husband started listening to this in the car when we were driving, and that's how I got into it. My wife was the same way. Like, we'd listen to podcasts.
Because I heard story after story after story of how it
change
changed
lives.
people's lives.
Yep.
All I needed to do was get the confidence to actually take the first step myself. And so whenever we would sit down in our living room and talk about these moments of building a better future for ourselves and finding financial freedom, it just sparked something in me of a challenge. And I do have a lot of achiever in me, that number 3 Enneagram achiever of, ooh, there's a challenge. Let's go after that. Let's make our lives better for our kids and for ourselves. And real estate, to me, it was that avenue in the beginning.
It's beautiful.
Which one of the things she put in her letter was, are we going to live in Hawaii? Because that was always our goal.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Yes.
100%. We went here on our baby moon before Riley. We went to Kauai. And when we left there, we were like, we're going to live here someday.
I wrote it as a question. I said, will we live in Hawaii? ?
Yeah.
And now you're here.
Now
And now we're here.
And are you living in Hawaii? Should we make this
Yes.
public? Are you gonna?
Yes.
Yes,
You
we
went
are.
much quicker, but okay.
So,
I like it.
This is news? This is news to me.
This is news to you?
we've lived here. You've been over to our house multiple times.
Haven't we had this
I've been
conversation?
over to somebody's rental that you've been squatting in. Are you guys gonna move here full time?
Yeah. August
Yes.
1st.
Right in time for Riley's kindergarten.
Love it.
In
So
August.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have so much fun. Do you want to live in my backyard?
Yes.
I'm
We
relaxed
might
back
have
there.
to.
Still trying to figure that part out.
That's supposed to be my place. The whole thing, I was supposed to come out here. I told Ryan to buy a house so I could live.
No, we actually need a compound bigger than. I got 3 units here. We need like 8.
We can do it.
You know that house you guys and we all went and looked up on the
Yes.
country. You guys went
Yes.
separately.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Oh,
this,
yeah.
For those, yeah. There's this crazy cool house up in like Kula, which is up on the mountainside here in Hawaii. This old, like, I don't even know what you call it, Victorian.
Victorian.
I, don't know.
I would say Victorian,
yeah.
like very Victorian. Yeah.
Yeah, like 100-year-old house, which you don't get here. Just classic, huge thing. Probably needed a couple million of work.
Yeah.
Was
I was
guess.
going to
think
say 5.
million,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I think they
'Cause there's
wanted 5. It
four-
was
I
4
think
to
there's-
buy.
But there's I think there's 4 to 5
houses.
on the property.
Yeah.
An outdoor kitchen.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we'd be in the
beautiful.
whole thing for 10, and then it's worth 15, 20,
At
30,
least.
you know, who whatever crazy celebrity's going to buy it someday.
Yeah.
But I think it's taken now.
Easy.
But
I'd
Dude, we
flip
can
that.
figure that out.
I'd flip that. That should be
Yeah,
the name of
I'd
a
flip
show.
that.
I'd flip that.
I'd flip that.
I bet you that is
I'd
the name
flip
of a
that.
show already.
Yeah,
we just don't
probably
know
is.
it. Yeah.
Well, today we thought of the show On the Flip Side, and that's a good show.
that's a good one, yeah.
That's a good one. A little pun. All right, so you guys went from like 0 to 100 miles an hour very, very rapidly. I want to talk about how. Before we get into the how, I want to get into like the mentality of that.
Yeah.
Almost everybody I know in real estate, myself included, I don't know about you, Alex, we can find out. I bought a house, worked on it for a while, sold it a year later, made some money. Then I bought a duplex, and we scale up very slowly over the course of many, many years. You guys are just like, woo! woo, like right all in. Like why did you do that? What was your mentality like? And I'll start with Lexi on that one.
Okay.
What was your mentality like to do
So
that?
it's interesting that you ask about mentality because mine has shifted so much from year one to where we are now. When we first got started, my mentality was, I will do whatever it takes. If I am the one in there swinging the hammer, so be it. If I am the one finding the tenant, so be it. I'll do whatever it takes to make this thing work. And that was probably the first year and a half. And then I realized, oh, there's people out there who can do this better than I can. Contractors, project managers, property managers that can do this so much better than I can and so much faster than I can. So that is where my mentality shift happened, probably in year two. I started thinking, okay, let's get the right people in the right seats and get me out of doing these jobs that really other people are better at.
But what's the mentality
answer your
shift between
question?
somebody who is like, I'm cutting hair to like, now I'm going to go, what was the first deal? I mean, how did you go from, if you do 50 deals in year one,
Yeah,
even
more
if you
than
do 10 deals in year one, that's far exceeds what most people will do. So how does your mentality go from like, I mean, I don't mean to sort of insinuate, but
Oh, no.
you're like, I'm
Yeah,
cutting hair.
absolutely.
So like, we're going to
It was
go,
crazy.
we're going to go buy
Well-
some houses, and I'm sure you had to be borrowing money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of education runway here.
Yeah. I mean, or you go ahead. Go.
I was just going to say, I personally wasn't discontent cutting hair, but I knew that I had a lot more to offer. So I thought, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work, then I go back to cutting hair.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point because that was one of my thoughts. We had, and I say this like we had nothing to lose. We were living at her parents' house when we were doing this when we started, and I had taken a job in St. Louis as a pastor as well, and you were kind of 100% focused on real estate.
Yeah, I was full-time real estate at that point.
But I wasn't making very much money, and it was one of those things where we had nothing to lose. And a huge thing that there was two thoughts, which just sounds so weird, and they're corny sayings that I had in my head. Were like, one, bet on yourself. That's something that I've always lived by. Like, hey, we're going to bet on ourselves. We're going to go all in and know that we can do this. And the other one is, it was somebody's going to do it. Why can't it be us? Like somebody out there is doing this. Like, why can't we be that fairy tale story of, we can. And so,
Dude, just that mentality of saying, like, for example, in your market, was anybody flipping 100 houses a year? The answer is probably.
Yeah,
right?
there was.
In like, if you look at, and this could be applied to anybody's situation, like, okay, if you want to start a dog walking business, does anybody in the U.S. have a dog walking business and making $1 million a year? Probably. Okay, then why not you?
Exactly.
Right? Like, if it's being done, it can be done by you.
well, and I will say that. So to give a shout out to my mentors is I've got mentors there that are flipping 300 houses a year. And those were some of the first, and I just got lucky enough that I went to high school with them. They're a little bit older than me. But I'd reach out to them on Facebook when we first moved back, and I sat down with them, and they started telling me everything that they're doing, and was, one, blown away by what they were doing, but two, I kind of like weaseled my way into a relationship with them and saw that it could be done. I think that's part of it, is just like, it can't, like, people are doing it. Like, I have friends in St. Louis, our market, that are flipping 300 houses a year. We're at 100, so somebody's doing it. Why can't it be us? And so, we went all in, like, I'll tell you a little bit of our first deal, where it was actually, our first deal was a flip that did not go well at all. We bought that in the fall of 2019. So, and that was one of those things where again, though, this was just betting on ourselves, where we had Callie. Callie was literally, I signed the contract in the hospital with Callie right when she was born. The day she was born,
You asked me about that deal as I was sitting in the bed nursing Callie, and you were like, should we do this? And I'm like, Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
we should. This seems great.
Yeah, and it was not great. It was terrible. Yeah, it was not great. So I had
Yeah, why do you need my opinion
Yeah, I
when
was
my
gonna do it. I was
hormones
gonna
are
do
like
it, yeah.
this? Yeah.
But
We were
it,
doing
so
it.
My
the,
best flip ever, by the way, I signed the day Wilder was born. Like,
Really?
we were in the hospital. We signed papers for it. So
Yeah.
there's something to that. That was my
There's
best.
something
that,
to it.
that was our
Yeah.
that was our first. So maybe it was our best. But it was also
Got us started.
Yeah. But so I bought this. No joke. I had walked it, but I had zero construction experience. Zero flipping experience. I didn't know I didn't know how to run an ARV of a house or a rehab budget on a house. It was just one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to be the person that talks about this and doesn't do it. I'm just going to do it. And so we bought this house, and in my mind, I had it's going to be a $30,000 to $40,000 rehab. And our very first contractor was Kenny. Yeah. He came and he walked it, and I was telling him everything I wanted. I was like, I want to take out walls here, and I want to do this, that. And he just stopped me and he was like, this is going to be a $150,000 rehab. Legitimately.
We
You already owned it?
run the
We already owned
numbers
it.
as
We already
a
owned it.
$30,000 rehab
Yeah.
and just got told by our contractor that it was going to be $100,000
Is this a
rehab.
what not to do show?
Well, so he gave us some advice though. He was like, what I would do with this, because it was a house that was built in, I think it was built in 1894. So we started with a 124-year-old
Knowing
house.
what we know now,
Yeah.
we laugh at that.
Yeah. And he was like, once we start pulling out walls, there's going to be so many other things that are wrong with this. He was like, paint floors, kitchen, bathrooms. Like, just do that. He's like, we're not going to take out walls or anything like that. He's like, we can do that for pretty cheap. Actually, he couldn't do it for very cheap. We ended up doing it.
We ended up doing it.
So we got an air mattress, and with our dog, with Riley, who at the time was a year and a half old, and with Callie, who was literally a newborn, we moved into this house and we did everything. I've got pictures of us flipping a house, like we were ordering takeout every night, and I was still going to work, but then coming home and painting. Lexi was there all day long, painting, refinishing the cabinets, and it was a super cheap rehab. It wasn't like the bathrooms were nice. It was just like new toilets, new vanities. I think we glazed the tub, but.
Did you buy the Home Depot glazing kit that you just like do yourself?
Did we pay some? I think we paid somebody on that one.
I
think
did that.
we-
It did not work.
Yeah, no,
I think
I've
we
never
did pay
glazed.
somebody. Yeah, I think
I've
we
never done
paid
that.
somebody
Yeah,
for
it
that.
doesn't
But like, and there was like I
It's
couldn't
good to
get
have
the.
limitations, right?
Right.
It was one of those things
Good
like
to know your boundaries.
I had a friend that like from Colorado that I flew out to do some stuff because he was just he's like, if you just buy my ticket and give me a place to stay, I'll do it for free, which was cheaper than paying some. So I was just doing all these things to cut costs, save money. And we ended up breaking even on that very first deal.
Met a lot of good contractors.
We learned
that
a
we
ton.
still use
Yeah.
to this day.
We learned a ton. If you added in our man hours, we probably lost $25,000. Because we committed hundreds and hundreds of hours to that deal.
Sure.
But that was our very first deal.
$1 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we made. Yeah, it was like we did not make anything on that deal, but we learned so much in that deal, and it was so much fun. And that was in the fall of 2019, which I don't really count that as our first one because that was, I mean, I guess it was, but it wasn't good, so I don't like to talk about it. But
Well, there is
That's
something
not how
about
counting works.
Right.
I like to count our second one as our best one.
there is something to say
Perfect.
though. There is a lot of people over the last few years who their first deal is like $100,000 because the market's just been so crazy, right? And I actually think that is such a handicap. Is that the wrong
I
word?
would say so, yeah.
Like it's like
That's the
it's
perfect word.
Yeah, it's a like. This is a problem because now they don't know what struggle is.
Yeah.
Like they don't know what pain is. And so it's like, oh, it's always gonna be easy. And so I actually am a big fan of starting with pain and then
Well, and one thing
growing.
I would say to anybody that like is watching that wants to get into real estate or listening that wants to get into real estate, and what I tell anybody that calls me and is like, hey, teach me about real estate. My biggest thing is like, you don't try and hit a home run on your first one. Like if you do, that's great. But for us, we did not hit a home run. Like we struck out, but it was still, we learned the process. We learned how like to even like talk real estate, like there's a part of it where it's like, just talking real estate that I didn't know. And we learned how to do that. We learned to meet contractors. We just learned so much that catapulted us into our next couple deals, which our next one ended up being really good because the quick numbers on the next one was we bought it, and this was actually a BRRRR deal where we bought it because I'd heard you talk about the BRRRR thing before, but I thought you were like it was a multi-level marketing scheme or like snake oil, you know. It's like it can't be true. But we
Do you want to explain real quick what BRRRR is for those who don't know?
Yes.
Thanks, man.
I
Hey,
feel
this isn't
weird.
really a real estate show.
I feel weird
Oh
explaining
my
it to
goodness.
to
Wow.
the guy who like made it famous. I think it's called like buy.
Remediate.
No.
You guys, terrible.
Okay. Buy, renovate, rehab, rent.
You already butchered it, man.
Oh,
You already
my.
There's a
butchered
lot
it.
of R's. So the BRRRR,
Wait,
it's just
wait,
BRRRR.
wait, wait.
Buy, rehab,
Lex-
rent,
Buy,
refinance, repeat.
rehab,
repeat.
rent.
We should have asked Lexi.
Buy,
I know.
You
I
should
should have
ask
asked
me.
Lexi.
Buy, rehab,
Come on.
rent, refinance, repeat. That's what we did.
Okay.
So we bought a house for $67,000. We put 30 into it, so we were all in for $97,000. We got it appraised at $165,000. So and at the time, interest rates were pretty low, and we had a bank that was giving us, if the numbers worked, they would give us 80% LTV. So we were all in for 97. They gave us 80% of 165. So we were able to pull 118,
They were giving you 80% of what the thing was going to be worth at the end.
No, not until the end. So we
Okay,
used
yeah.
private money.
Okay.
And we bought it and renovated it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Then they sent out an appraiser, said it's 165. We'll give you 80% of 165, which came to, I think it was around 120. And so we were able to take that 120. We paid off our private lender. We put 15, 18 grand in the bank, which was more money
Yeah.
than we had ever had in the bank at the time, and we still had a house that was cash flowing. I think it rented for $14.50 a month,
Yeah.
and so we still had a house that was cash flowing about $300 a month. And we got done with that first deal, and we looked at each other and we're like, "This is amazing."
Yeah.
We need to do this full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I legitimately think in the next 2 weeks I bought like 8 hauses. Yeah.
So how did you scale like that? I mean, was it just a matter of like, is there a dial you just turned, or what
We
did you
just
do?
did it.
Where'd the money come from?
So there's a great hard money lending company in St. Louis, Faster Funds Lending. We used them a ton, and they were really helpful too because I didn't know what I was doing, but because they're local, they only lend to investors in St. Louis. They would actually physically send somebody out to every single property to walk it. They would run their ARV on it, and they would come back, and they were helpful to me because they would say, "Yeah, we'll lend on it," and they would lend 100% of the purchase price plus the rehab.
Wait, 100% of purchase price and rehab?
Yeah, if you bought it deep enough, because they're not an institutional lender, they're a local,
Sure.
a local hard money lender, and so they were incredible. They were absolutely incredible to work with.
And that also feels good because you have a second pair
Yeah,
of eyes
it
on it, and
was-
you know, okay, this is a good deal.
Yeah,
My only flip I ever lost money on, my hard money lender told me not to do it, and I was like,
Really?
"Screw you!" And I went around and found another hard money lender.
yeah.
and that's when I lost money on. That people will look at banks as like or lenders as they're the bad guy. In reality, they're a second set of eyes.
Oh,
they
yeah.
were, because they did tell us on some. They were like, "Hey, we're not
don't
going
like
to
it?
lend on this," and I'm like, "I'm not going to buy it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we will run away.
It was like
Yeah.
it was like free coaching in a way. And so we used them
Even
a lot.
though it's more interest, I liked that option
'cause
for
I
getting
think
started.
they were at like 12 and 3, but then we quickly found a private money lender that would lend as well, and he was at 12%.
Do you want to explain the difference for those who don't know between private money and hard money?
Yeah, so private money lender is just full disclosure. It's an extended family member. It's an uncle who came to us, and actually we went to him and said, "Hey, here's what we're doing." We'd already done our first one with a hard money lender, so we showed him like, here's the, like, we buy it at this. We put this into it. We refinance. We're able to pay you back your money plus your interest, and then we're going to hopefully do it over and over again, and you make 12% on your money. So a private money lender is just somebody within your network that's giving you money, and then a hard money lender is usually a company or something like that that's loaning you money. So so we found so we did a couple with Faster Funds, which is a hard money lending company in St. Louis. Absolutely incredible. And then we did. Then we started utilizing our private money lender, and then over time I was posting on Instagram, and we just had random people reach out that were like, "Hey, do you need any sort of funding or anything like that?" And so I was pretty good at raising money. And so I was using money from all these different avenues. Yeah, we bought, we bought a ton of houses. And then part, let's back up a little bit. Also, we started wholesaling. That was a part of it too, where we were adding a lot in our active income through wholesaling, where I was buying a ton from wholesalers, and I was like, well, I want to find deals myself. And so just started buying from wholesaler or buying my own deals and doing some of my own marketing. And honestly, I utilize like just my network to buy a lot of houses.
And wholesaling being where you find the deal and then just sell it to another investor and make a little fee.
Yep, exactly. Keep the best, wholesale the rest was kind of our motto. And so
what's the job split between you guys, and was that natural? Did you have to work on it?
It was very natural. And it felt
you guys
like
met at 10 years old, and then business works out.
It was so natural. It was
blessed.
incredible.
Somehow we had chemistry from knowing each other from when we were 10. But it rolled out really naturally. The way I can best explain it was Cameron was starting everything and I was finishing everything. So he was the visionary, I was the integrator. He was finding the deals, he was analyzing the deals, and I was doing everything after that, managing the rehab, deciding if it was a flip or if it was a rental, finding tenants. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way of describing it?
100%. Yeah, I essentially, my full-time job up until, honestly, recently was buying houses. That was all I cared about. So I was at every networking event in St. Louis. I was at every real estate meetup, anything that there was in St. Louis, I was there. I was meeting people. I was walking houses. I was probably walking anywhere from 8 to 12 houses a day. Like that's all I did was I found houses and I bought them, analyzed them, put them under contract. And then once we bought those houses, I kind of handed that off to Lexi. So Lexi did an incredible job. She built up like probably 5 or 6 crews in the first couple months that were able to rehab houses for us. She started learning property management. She read your book on rental property management.
Oh, it was my Bible for a long time.
But I would buy
wrote the majority of that. She gets all the credit there.
I'll tell her thank you.
So I bought houses and then Lexi did the rest.
Yeah. So while he was learning that, I was learning the ins and outs of a rehab. How can I get this done in 2 months and stay on budget?
I love that because I don't do that much real estate anymore, but when I did, I had to do all of it. And I'm very good at starting things, and I'm really bad
That's how I am.
at finishing things.
If I would have bought one house so far if my job was to finish it, because it would still be going on 3 years later.
Where do you stand on this?
Similar. The reason I was so slow is because I was playing like golf by myself. You know what I mean? Like it was a single sport, a single player game versus like a team sport like basketball, baseball, whatever. So once for years, it was me alone and it was me and Heather, and it was me and Heather for 10 years. Yeah. That got us to 30 some rental units, but what took us from 30 to 8,000 was making it a team sport. Yeah. And all of a sudden, all I had to do was the one thing or two things that I was good at, and somebody else got to do the thing they were good at. And with the couple thing, it's always hard. But Heather did the same thing. She just really was like, okay, well, if we're doing this, I guess this is gonna be my part. And she just dove in, and I just let her do her part. And as long as I didn't try to like dictate how she does her part, and she wouldn't dictate how I did my part, that worked out really, really well for us.
And I would say a huge part of that, all of this too, was finding the right mentors. Because I was talking about the guys, Sam and Lucas, they're partners. They flip 300 houses a year. They brought me under their wing. They taught me everything that they knew. I went out and bought houses for them for a while. And one of the things that I learned from them was like, you can do your own rehabs, you can swing your own hammer, but you're not going to go very far. And so from the very first house that we bought, like, we would do we would power wash the sidewalk or something like that, but we never really did any work at all on we had crews for everything. So from the very first one, we started building systems to be able to scale just because I had incredible mentors that taught me that.
I interviewed a guy years ago named Kevin Carroll over on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I'll never forget what the story he told, because what he said was his first year he flipped 100 houses. Got into real estate, flipped 100 houses because all his buddies were flipping 100 houses. When I asked him how could you just how did you even know to go and just I'm gonna go build 100 houses? He said, I didn't know that wasn't what you're supposed to do. Right?
It's a great way to say it.
Because if all your friends are doing that, and that just do the same systems they're doing, right? You do what you see done. And so he just approached it from, okay, well, clearly, and this is where real estate I have found is such a, okay, I don't know, not even real estate, but just business in general. It's a dial. You just turn it up and down. And so you just find people who have it turned up a little higher and you're like, well, what are they doing in their life? So for example, okay, well, the guys that are doing 100 flips a year, let me just ask you a few specific questions, you two. How are you, when I find deals, I would get a real estate agent. They would send me a potentially deal once every couple of weeks. I would analyze it. I'd make an offer. And then once every 3 or 4 months, I'd buy a deal. That's how I bought 2 houses a year. How do you guys buy 100 houses a year?
Yeah, I have a very in-depth answer to this question. If you want it.
Sure.
So, so what I've got, so we do direct mail. We do cold calling, some text blasts, which is great. That buys us, but that only probably buys us 30% of our houses. What I have gotten really, really good at is, and I call it in our Podio, we use Podio. It's a CRM for inputting leads and whatnot. And I call it connector leads. And that's essentially from people just in my network. So property management companies. So I have every Monday, I send an email to every property management company in St. Louis. And I say, hey, if any of your clients are looking at selling their houses, reach out to me. I'm a cash buyer. Would love to work with you. And when I first met them all, when I first put them all into that email, I'd send them a handwritten note saying, hey, I'm a cash buyer. I'd put my business card in there. So I built relationships with them.
By the way, did you ever guarantee them or tell them that if you buy the property, you'll keep management with them, or
no, I would never do.
Okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't do that. No.
Okay.
Real estate agents, I would do the same exact thing. And this just took went to every brokerage website in St. Louis, copied every single email, put it into an Excel spreadsheet, uploaded it into Constant Contact. Would send out an email to every real estate agent saying, hey, I'm a cash buyer. Here's my buy box. If I buy and it's, if it's your listing, like a pocket listing or something like that, you can also represent me as the buyer so you can get both sides of the commission. And so send out an email like that. I would connect with every junk removal company, every mold remediation company, and just keep those. And it's really just a drip campaign where it's just an email or a text blast to all of them saying, hey, I'm looking for houses. And I just want to be, anytime a house comes up in St. Louis that needs to be sold as is, I want to be the first person that somebody thinks of. And so I've done all that, bought a ton of houses that way. But I think the best way that I've bought houses is by almost growing a wholesaling team underneath me that aren't my employees. But there's so many wholesalers just nationally who they watched a TikTok or they saw a social media post about wholesaling and how you
Coffee
can do
with Cam.
Coffee with Cam. Yeah, exactly.
With Cam.
But they would do a direct mail campaign, and they'd get these leads, but they had no idea what to do with them. They had no idea how to run the numbers. They had no idea how to negotiate a deal. They had no idea how to, put together ARV, rehab budget, any of that stuff. And so what I'm great at is networking. So I would start just finding these newer wholesalers, taking them out to coffee, taking them out to lunch, and say, hey, every time you get a lead, call me. I'll negotiate it for you. I'll run the numbers for you. I'll give you my offer, and then we'll decide how much spread you want. And then I'll go in, I'll try and negotiate it for that number. And so I had this almost army of wholesalers under me that were bringing me free leads 24/7. I mean, I was getting so many leads just by hammering the wholesaling. And so that happened because I was at every networking event in St. Louis. I was all over the place. So,
What I saw happen after that, kind of as a step 2, was you did what you said you were going to do to those wholesalers. So then once you've done one deal with them, they want to keep going.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a one-time deal. It was you did what you said you were going to do. They made their commission, and then they wanted to do that again and again and again. So it started as a one deal thing, but then led to several deals.
100%. Yeah, and we would, we've never backed out of a deal before. one of my favorite stories and how like a lot of wholesalers loved me was there was one specific guy who brought me a deal, walked to the house with him. The entire time the owner was like, if I can get $200,000, I'd be so happy. I'd be out. $200,000. That's all I need. We went out to my car and we ran numbers. My number came to $230,000. So I told the wholesaler, hey, I'm at $230,000. Let's go lock this up at 200. And we did. And he made a 30K spread right then and there. Then he texted me afterwards and he was like, dude, you could have told me you were at $205,000 and we would have went up and locked the contract up and I would have made $5,000. And that was one of those, like, I'm always gonna be honest. I'm always gonna do what I say I'm gonna do. And we ended up being just fine on that one because I think we made like $25,000 on that deal, you know? So that I just got really good at buying houses, I guess.
What I love about this and since I've been doing real estate, it's almost never about real estate and it's almost always about people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find the right mentors, the right lenders, the right private money lenders, the right contractors, the right wholesale, like people all the way down, and then, you know, you can do 100 flips a year.
Yeah.
That's cool. Can you expand? We were hanging out at the pool with our kids the other day and you were talking about the DISC, the DISC, and how you utilize that to talk, negotiate, work with sellers.
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
love
Because I thought that was a great conversation that I think
Yes.
people could learn from. Because it's not just real estate either. Like just knowing how to utilize personality in discussion with people.
Yes.
Powerful.
So for people that are listening, there's kind of 4 letters. It's the DISC. There's a high D, there's a D, there's an I, there's an S, and there's a C. D is going to be, this is just a really quick overview. D is going to be like a very dominant trait where they're typically like the CEOs or, you know, they're domineering. I is just going to be somebody that is very relational, somebody that's outgoing. S is going to be somebody that wants stability, is very family oriented. C is going to be the more analytical trait, you know. And so I took a training, and I don't remember who it was, but it was on negotiating with people when buying houses, like according to the DISC. And it was so helpful when I started walking properties and buying houses from people. And I don't want to, it wasn't emotional manipulation whatsoever, but it was just learning how to speak people's language.
Sure.
Alex is grinning over there. He's got but anyway.
Everybody's thinking, I don't have to say anything.
It wasn't. It was just learning how to communicate with people. Like I utilize it on Lexi all the time. Like I know.
Okay, well.
But it's for any
Keep
relationship.
talking.
Like so for instance, for a high D, somebody that's dominant.
I utilize it on you too.
Yeah, I and which is fair because I'm a high I. So like I want to be everybody's best friend. That
me too.
So if you want to get to know me or I don't know, take advantage of me, be my best friend. That sounded weird, but so anyway, let me go to this. So a high D, if I realize somebody is a high D, really quickly, I'm going to let them feel like they won the negotiation process. So like say my max allowable offer is at 150. I usually like to give people my max allowable offer just off the bat because I want to be open and honest. But with a high D, I'm always going to start lower than that because I know for me to buy a house from a D, they have to feel like they won the conversation. And so I'll start, say my max allowable offer is 150. I'll start at 130 and know that I'm going to work my way up to 150. But every time they're like, no, I need you here. Like they're pulling teeth from me. And get to 150 and that's my max level offer. So I can't go over that. But for a high D, they want to feel like they won that conversation. They want to feel like they controlled that conversation. And I'm going to let them feel like that. With a high I, again, I'm a high I. I want to be your best friend. I'm going to talk about anything but the house, sports, the weather, traveling.
Where they went to high school.
Exactly. And I get it because I'm a high I. And if I was selling my house, I would sell it to somebody based off of my relationship with them versus the price. If the prices were close, but somebody else was higher, but I had a good relationship with somebody, I would sell it to them 10 times out of 10 before I sold it to the higher price, just because I'm a high I and I want to be friends with people. And so high I's was that's how I negotiate with them. With high S's, which is another, so I'd say like I'm best at working with high I's and high S's. High S's, it's all about just the sentimental value, like the stability, like what buying their house, like the opportunities it offers them later on in life, but also like one of the things, you know how when you walk a house, if you see like a door frame and it has like their kids, like as they grow up in that house.
Yeah, I got that.
Every time I see that, I'm like, this is a house I'm going to buy. We've
gonna be
bought
their best
so
friend.
many houses.
Yeah.
What?
You're going to be their best friend.
Well, but I'm going to cast the vision
Yep.
of, first of all, Lexi and I, we're married. We have kids.
Yep.
I'm going to cast the vision
You're
of
gonna
like
connect.
Yeah, we're going to connect over that, and then I'm going to cast the vision of like, hey, we're going to honor your legacy. Like for instance, a flip we just wrapped up that was our best flip ever. The way that I bought that house was she was crying. Her kids had grown up at that house. We sat down at the dinner table and she was just crying. She needed to sell it, but she was also just sad that she was, selling a house that her kids had grown up in. And I told her like, hey, my wife and I, we're going to come in here and we're not taking your legacy away from you. We're going to honor it. And not only that, but you get to be a part in like building somebody else's legacy. Like somebody else is going to come buy this house and they're going to have family moments and memories in this house. And like you get to add to somebody else's legacy in this house. And so, so with S's, that's the pitch that I give because they're very sentimental and they're family oriented. With C's, and I'm terrible at selling to C's because I'm the least analytical person that there is, but it's just a numbers game. It's like, hey, here's my 3 comps, and so here's how I came to the ARV. Here's the rehab. I'm at 70% or 75% minus repairs. Here's the number, and so I'm pretty bad at actually buying from C's, but that's the disc profile, like purchasing.
I've known you for a few months. That is the smartest thing I've heard you say yet.
By the way,
very insightful.
The house I mentioned earlier that was up in Kula, that really cool old house up in Kula. Did you notice one of the rooms had the heights? Yeah, and they were dated back to like the 19-teens. Like it was like over 100 years old of heights of their kids growing through the years.
If that was direct to seller, we'd be buying that house.
We would have
There was
it.
an agent that listed it, but if I could get in a room with the seller, I'd tell him.
I just thought how cool that would be to like cut that out. My aunt growing up, my Aunt Lee, Auntie Lee, we call her, she had like a basement that went downstairs. And so you go down to her basement, but the walls on the right, on the left, and on the ceiling, she had everyone who came to the house over the course of like 40 years that they lived there would sign their name somewhere. So like my name was on there from when I was 5 years old, right? Like my parents' names, everybody, and there were thousands of names that covered it, and little pictures that people draw by their names. It was so magical. And then they moved and they just painted over it. And I was like, I could that like 5 years ago. I was like, I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Just to paint over 40 years of, so maybe they weren't high S's.
We cut out door frames a lot.
Do you?
And
Yeah.
give it to the
Yeah,
seller.
and give it to the seller.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
we cut out door
That's-
frames a lot.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
The question is, what's the door frame in your life, Cam?
Ooh.
That we need to preserve.
Oh, that's deep.
So every speaker does, right? They have to pull out a metaphor out of everything. But all right, guys, that's awesome. All right, so you scaled up very rapidly, built this big real estate business, and now you're trying to move to Hawaii. You're going to move to Hawaii.
We live here now.
You live here now. You got to go back home and get some things buttoned up.
Allegedly.
You got to go back to your former house. That sounded very Canadian. House. And button things up and come back. But what has that been like to run a business from afar? What lessons have you learned? And what do you need to do to ensure that you can live here and have it thriving there?
Lexi runs our business, so I'll let her.
So
She's
we
so much better
have
at
the
that.
right people in the right seat, and it took a while to get there. But we also have systems too that we were able to hand over. We worked on those systems for a long time, and then we found the right people to fill those seats. People that did do the job better than we did, kind of like I was talking about earlier. So what it looks like is a lot of Zoom calls. I check in with all the different leads weekly. We talk a lot every day, and those people are running the show. They do a really, really good job. At our project manager, for instance, does incredible. So I think the quick answer is having the right people in the right seat, and then just overseeing it from a distance can be done now.
All right.
Yeah. What about lead gen? Because I know a lot of it is,
Yes.
So
pounding the pavement.
that is the $1 million question, because Lexi's side of the business has went so well. This quarter will be our most profitable quarter ever because of Lexi's side of the business. My side of the business has not been as good because naturally I can't be the person that's going and walking these leads, negotiating direct to seller. And so that has suffered. So that is a huge Q2 issue that we're going to figure out.
Are the four of us going to flip houses in Hawaii?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
if you're here,
Yeah.
and it's a different game out here, but just add a zero onto your profits, and that's what Hawaii
That's
flipping
it.
is.
Hey, I will take that. That's the $1 million question though. Is acquisitions has definitely been down in Q1, but it's also been with a lot of my buddies that are doing this back in St. Louis. It's down across the board. So there's a part of me that is like, how much is it us being here, and then how much is it just naturally it's down across the board for most of the people back home. But that's a huge area of focus where I've got some acquisition managers that are on the ground there. I did not do a good job training people, and so Lexi did a phenomenal job with our project manager, who's amazing. Lexi did an incredible job at training him and like working with him and like handing that off to him to where now he just does everything. I was a very bad leader in the sense that there were times when I'd bring somebody on and then I'd be like, well, I can do this better than you, so I'm going to take it back over, which is a terrible like trait of a leader, where it's like, no, I need to let people fail and grow and get better. And so I did not do a good job of that. And that's a huge area of focus, because if we had a couple great AMs on the ground right now, we would never have to go back because of the revenue that we're bringing in. And right now we still don't, but I need to train a couple great AMs.
Are you willing to take some marginal, how do I say it, lesser amount of revenue to live here?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Is that something you guys have thought about, talked about?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, at least for me personally, I have decided over the last year, when we got into real estate, I've always struggled with like this, because we scaled really fast and we made a lot of money really fast and built our net worth really fast, where if I look and extrapolate that over a course of 10, 15, 20 years, we could be really rich. And I say that to say, I have decided that's not really what I want. Like, it'd be really cool. Like, if that'd be awesome. I think it was you. It might have been you that posted a story, and I think it was from John Mark Comer's book, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. He talked about how he sits on his front porch every day and he drinks coffee, and across the house is a house full of Nike athletes that work out. And he's like, and they're chiseled, they're jacked, they're ripped. And he's like, my favorite thing is sitting and reading a book and drinking my cup of coffee in the morning. He's like, I look at these guys, I'm like, I want to look like that. But then he quickly realizes, but for me to look like that, I would have to give up sitting on my front porch, drinking a cup of coffee and reading a book. And I feel that same way in life. Like, the things that matter most in the world to me right now are my wife, my kids, and relationships. Money is great. I mean, it helps us do like things that we want to do, but at the same time, that is so much farther down on the totem pole to me, where it's like, if I could spend every day just hanging out with my wife and my kids and building relationships, and I love business, it's fun and I enjoy it, but it's way farther down on the totem pole. So to answer your question, yes, I would take a lot less money.
It reminds me a bit of that quote. I heard Hormozy say it for the first time, Alex Hormozy, but he said, don't be upset by the results you didn't get, by the work you didn't do. And so like with that, the fitness thing, like, I don't have a six pack, right? Well, it's because I didn't do the work for a six pack. And I'm good with that. It's actually a good level of self-awareness for us to realize, like, I'm okay not being that rich person. I'm okay not having the private jet, not having the six pack, because I'm not willing to sacrifice that part of me to get that result. And once you realize that, then you're not upset about it anymore. In fact, I think people look at those things and they're upset because they do not have them. But if we can just step back and say, I don't have that on purpose. In fact, Alex, we were talking about that, right? So Alex is a visionary like I am. You always got ideas for business stuff. And what's the kind of the thing I was saying was like, maybe it's okay to say, hey, for the next 2 years, I'm not going to do it. Because now you're managing your own expectations with yourself. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing anything right now. It's good. I'm just building this.
It's very hard.
It is very hard. It is. Because, we feel like we have to live up to some expectation. But if I was like, I don't care about a six pack, all of a sudden then I'm not sad that I don't have one.
Yeah. And every day by 1 o'clock, we're at the beach with our kids. We're swimming in the pool with our kids. We're at the park with our kids. And I'm not like, I would much rather have that than anything else in this world. And I'd also rather eat dessert and candy than have a six pack, like
I'm okay,
You
okay
said
with that. Like,
on the way over here.
yeah, I did. I
Tonight,
literally did.
you
I was
said,
like, I'd love.
I like food too much.
Yeah.
Can I add one other thing to this? And, Maui certainly helps, but nature makes life sort of slow down, and it really makes, I think, just human beings, right? We're supposed to be in nature.
Yeah.
And when we're not around nature, I think, when you get into a city, especially, it feels very like anxiety riddled. And then, Maui is very easy to be in nature very quickly.
It is.
And so I think that's helped me over the last few months, especially. It's like, hey, go for a walk. You'll feel better about all these anxieties about what you maybe think you should be doing. And it's like, hey, it slows down a little bit. And you're like, I'm okay.
Yeah. Life is great.
I have a couple more questions business-wise, and I want to move past business to get into your relationship and parenting a little bit. First question, I want to talk to you, Lexi, a little bit, because you are a woman in business, and you seem to like that a lot. Versus my wife, who really, as soon as she could get out of that, she was like, I want to homeschool. I want to be with the kids every day. So you're very different.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Where have you found yourself as a mother and a businesswoman? How have you found that and balanced it?
Yeah. So for a long time, I did have a weight of, I am not going to be able to give my kids what they need if I pursue business. For a long time, I had that weight on me. And at the same time, I had this weight of, I have this really strong drive and desire to create opportunity, to provide for our family alongside Cam. There's this drive that I just can't turn off that wants to create things and see things have success, see businesses in particular have success. So it has been a really long mindset change of you can have both. I still have really great intentional time with my kids, and those relationships are not suffering because I am chasing business success and because I have this drive of wanting to see achievement. So I would say that, there just is this really strong drive of I want to see things through. Like we kind of talked about earlier, Cam's the starter, I'm the finisher. I have this desire to bring a level of I want to contribute to what we're building for our family. I don't want Cam to feel that burden all to himself of I have to provide for my family. And that's getting kind of deep and personal, but I do feel that. I don't want him to have that soul burden. I also want to carry that burden. And I also don't want to be the one that is 100% connecting with our kids and they go to me for connection and him for money. I want to share those responsibilities. And I didn't see that growing up. So it really is a big passion of mine to split those pros and those cons. If that speaks to what you were asking
Very
about.
much. Very much. So how have you managed that? Let's go a little more tactical then. Is what are some of the things that you're doing right now to, and this is going to be a both question, but to balance work, business, life? Any advice for people or things that have worked well for you right now with that?
Yeah, definitely. I have to just shut it off. And there's never a good point to just shut it off.
Yeah,
there's
real estate never ends.
always emails that are urgent. There's always issues that come up that are urgent. But like I have to be a good mom. I am a good mom. And so when I'm with my kids, it's intentional time. And I'm not focused on the whatever matter is urgent. There's other people that can handle those things. It doesn't always have to be me. So I think it's just the turning it off when I'm with my kids. And I've tried the opposite and it fails miserably. I have tried to answer emails while I'm with my kids and it doesn't always work great.
The sad truth is that there's a lot of parents that are in the same room as their kids for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and they're with their kids for 3 minutes a day, right? Because they're on their phones, they're busy thinking about other things. They're not with their kids. They're just in the same room.
Yeah.
And so I have seen that with you guys is when you're with your kids, you're with your kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to miss a minute.
Well, and I'll say this about Lexi because she is the breadwinner in our relationship,
And the better looking one.
and the better looking
Oh,
one.
my-
But
And she's actually more fun than you
Amen.
too. So
no,
Did
I'm
you
gonna
say
take that.
more fun?
I'm gonna take
More
that.
fun.
Oh, that's not true. I wish it were, but
she
it's him.
she is she's the most selfless person that I know in the sense that for me I need my time where it's like, yeah, I worked really hard today. I'm going to go sneak off and just be alone or sit on my
Come
phone.
over to my house
Yeah,
and
exactly.
hang
I'm
out,
going to go over to babe, I got to go to Brandon's where she doesn't stop. Like it's like, she's up at 5 a.m. every morning working on our business and then straight to the kids. And, like I said, we're by 12 or 1 o'clock every day. It's like full on kid mode and playing with them and loving on them up until bedtime. And then after bedtime, like she's hanging out with me and being an incredible like wife and spouse. And so literally she doesn't stop. She doesn't ever take time for herself. Well, not in a bad way, but like you're just
yeah,
so
I don't
committed.
feel like I am neglecting myself at all.
Yeah.
It's there's so much purpose behind each part of life right now that it's so fulfilling that
She's a great podcast guest.
She is a great podcast guest. She should do more of these podcasts.
do more of these.
All right. So before we move on to relationship stuff and some kid stuff, well, we've already gotten there anyway, but let's have each of you, if you would, we're going to do a little experimental acting here. We're going to call it.
Okay.
Maybe that's
We've done
the
some
one.
acting.
Okay, I've got a little glass right here. This is actually a time machine glass right here, and by it sitting here, you are going to be able to send a message back to yourself. Let's call it 4 years ago. You're making whatever 30, 40, 50,000.
I was making 35.
$35,000. You got that hospital bill. You're like this is a problem. I recognize the problem. What do you say to yourself? And then I'll ask Lexi the same question. What do you say to yourself? Not to change anything, but what advice or would you give somebody else maybe in the same shoes right now that's there that you could tell them?
So this might sound like a cop-out, but how do I word this? I would say, like, when we had that hospital bill, here's what I know. And this is not like to brag on us, but I truly do think that like we have an incredible, like I love my wife more than anything or anybody in the world, except LeBron James every once in a while. But
I know it. I mean, yeah.
But so here's the beautiful thing about like picking the right spouse is I knew no matter what, like if we're living in a car, if we're, like I always am going to have Lexi and like we're going to be good parent, I'm really not that worried about like losing everything because I know like we're still going to have each other, as corny as that sounds. But I would say that looking back 4 years ago,
Yeah, I think it's somebody else in your exact position, and they're just like, oh, I need something different. What do you tell them?
do you have something?
Yeah.
It looks like-
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you go for it. You
You
go
want me
for it.
to?
Yeah, I want to think
Okay.
about it.
Don't give up. I mean, it takes consistent, daily, intentional action, and it's all gonna work out. So don't give up.
That's good. That's really. What drove me to almost go along those lines, like I said, something that I literally printed it off and I put it on my wall, was bet on yourself. Like I knew, and not just bet on yourself. That sounds arrogant, but like bet on us. Like I knew that no matter what, we were going to figure it out. No matter what. I truly do believe that. And so I would say to like somebody that's in our exact situation 4 years ago is like, go for it, do it, bet on yourself. Like, like I was saying, there's other people out there that are doing it. Why can't you? Is that what you're looking for?
It is.
I don't feel like that's
That was a good
deep
answer,
enough,
man.
feel-
It's very deep enough. Man.
Okay.
That was good. Because the reason I asked that is they say you're most, what's that phrase? Rory Vaden said it, right? He's like, you're best at teaching the person that you were, is the idea. So like the person you were, like what that person needs to hear, who you were. And so a lot of times he teaches a lot of like branding and social media influencing, this guy, Rory. You've worked, so you know them. So like the idea being like, rather than I'm going to go teach somebody I don't know anything about, it's like, I'm going to teach me 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Like if I go back and tell myself things, like I am the best person in the world to tell somebody who is in the exact position I was 5 years ago. So that's why and I think this whole podcast will have a ton of that in it, but I want to give you one last shot at that. So good stuff, guys. Let's move then to what's working in your marriage. What makes you guys so good for each other and things so good right now? Are they good right now?
I would say they are good right now. Please tell me I'm not alone in that.
No, it's great right now. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing that has helped with that?
That's a loaded question. We spend a lot of time together. And we have sex a lot.
That's good.
Yeah,
So,
there's that.
But we do date nights a couple times a week, at least. We do date days. Like Thursday last week, we wrapped up work at 9 a.m. and spent the rest of the day together. And so we spend a lot of quality time together. I think like the falling in love with your spouse like every day, we do a really good job at that.
I think it's important to say though, it was not always that way.
Yeah. Like our first year of marriage, I was done
Year 1,
with
2,
you.
and 3 were rough. So going back to what I said earlier of don't give up, that applied in our marriage as well.
Why was it so rough in the beginning?
Well, one, we were young. We got married 20 and 21, and then we moved to a new state. We had new friends. We had new jobs. We had new environment. We had a new house. We could barely pay bills. But like, we didn't give up.
Yeah.
And it was not pretty. I'm very ashamed of some of the things that
Yeah, you were pretty mean to me.
I did / said in year 1, 2, and 3. But I mean, I think that contributes a lot to where we are now because we got through all the crap.
We did. And
We're both escalators. We're both verbal and like said, just really not respectful things.
Yeah.
Year 1, 2, and 3 wasn't great. And that contributes to where we are now.
100%. I think we learned a lot. Like in those really bad years, we learned how to communicate. We learned how to be selfless. We learned how to like. One of the things, like you said, we were both escalators. We both are high. like going back to the disc, we're both high D's where it's like we want to win. Like
You said you were an I.
I am an I. I'm
You
a
can be
highest
multiple
I.
things.
You can be a high
You can be multiple things.
You can't be good at everything.
No, because I'm terrible at C and my S's. Like on the disc, I'm like at a 65D, 100I, and like 5S and C. Like I love my family, but like the stability aspect of the S, I could care less. I love the instability, but we're both like. I think that's one of the reasons we've done so well in business is we're both very competitive, but we also would always want to win. And so like learning like that's not great for our marriage sometimes. Like even today, Lexi lost one of our kids.
I was there for this one.
I
Let's
think
hear
we
this.
have a witness.
Brandon.
Brandon.
No. So okay.
Turner.
So here, let me give you the full story. We were having Easter at Brandon's today, and Lexi
At my church.
What?
At my church, that one? Or are you talking about
Well, it
a
was
different
at
time?
church. We were at church,
Okay,
but
yes.
we were coming over to your
Yes,
house
okay,
for
yes.
Easter, and Lexi had bacon wrapped dates that she was making. She needed toothpicks for them. So, as worship started, Lexi was like, "We didn't want to bring the kids to Safeway because we got 3 of them, and it's a headache." And now the car. She's like, "I'm gonna run to Safeway real quick, get toothpicks. I'm gonna come back," and it took her longer than expected. And then I was left on Easter Sunday when there's thousands of people walking around.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Getting 3 kids like out of childcare, and then there's a park there, and Riley's upset because her baby's gone, and she's freaking out, and I'm trying to watch all 3 kids, and then one of my kids disappears, and I'm freaking out. Brandon actually found Cade.
I'm the hero of
Thank
this
you,
story.
knows
Brandon, for
I just want
saving
everyone
our
to know that I'm the
son.
hero of the. Do you know why I found him? Did I tell you that?
No.
I saw Wilder running, like, because I also was not paying very close attention to Wilder, and I saw him running through the crowd of 1,000 people from the opposite direction that he was supposed to be playing at. I assume he was at the playground, and he all of a sudden runs behind me, and I'm like, where the heck was Wilder at? And so that made me think maybe the little 2 boys ran off together, which I think exactly. So then I went and walked the direction I saw Wilder coming from, and that's where I found him.
Well, and we had
Oh,
lost
boy.
him.
So
It
they
was
were running
probably
together.
only 6-7 minutes, but
Yeah.
it felt like
forever.
Felt like forever, especially when he's 1 year old. But I say that to say all that story is when we got into the car, I was incredibly mean to Lexi. Like I was like, I can't believe you would do that. You would just leave me with all 3 kids on Easter Sunday. There's thousands of people. I've got but I've learned like how to control I didn't control my emotions, but I quickly, within seconds, I was like, babe, I'm so sorry. I am stressed out because I thought I just lost a kid and I'm having anxiety and like I was scared and I'm taking that out on you. Like this has nothing to do with you.
We're like waving to all the churchgoers.
Literally, as we're driving down, I'm like,
cussing
I
me out in
cannot
the car.
not cussing. Wow, okay. I did not. I literally
You didn't.
promise I did not.
I was being dramatic.
But like realizing at times like just when I'm escalating, because I escalate a lot. It's usually revolves around kids, but it's always because of myself, if that makes sense. So like
Sure.
I was stressed out. And I was pissed at myself for losing a kid for 7 minutes. And so I instead of being like taking responsibility for that, I blamed it on her and got mad at her. And so just really quickly realizing that. And it was probably within 30 seconds, I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry. You did not deserve any of that. That was my fault. I should not have done that. I should not have taken my emotions out on you.
Did that de-escalate you right away then? Or were you like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right, you shouldn't have? And then
No,
you did it?
I was holding it together, but I only had maybe 60 more seconds of holding it together, and then I was gonna erupt. So I think that's huge. Quick tip is learn how to make up fast.
There's an old saying in war, escalation never leads to de-escalation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about that sometimes when I argue or bicker or fight with anybody, because I'm very conflict oriented. And I'm like, okay, if I get into this, I have to know they might want to get into it too. Like, where am I willing to go? So I don't know if that's useful or not.
No, I think so, because we've been really good. There's never a winner in marriage Like there is a winner. I feel like when everybody's happy, there's a winner. But I'm saying like in an argument, there's if there's a winner, there's not a winner, if that makes sense. And we've been really good at that. I'm probably the one that escalates more because I want to win. And so like being able to realize like when I feel like I've won, I've really lost in a lot of ways.
So I want to now move toward the end of the show, but I can't get out of here without talking a little bit more about the parenting side of things, just a little bit. Actually, you know what? Before we we already talked a little bit about parenting. What I really want you to do is I want you guys to give advice on marriage and potential parenting, but to the bachelor. Can we call you a bachelor? To the unmarried, but maybe soon to be married sometime at some point whenever you set up a freaking date. The fiancéed man, Alex. So, what advice do you have in marriage for Alex as he ventures toward that someday target?
Lexi.
Well, you guys know Miss Kate.
Miss Kate's amazing.
Yeah.
She is the best.
Which I feel like I have too. So
Yeah.
That's
So
fair.
Lexi and Miss Kate, just some backstory here. Lexi and Miss Kate are friends.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm good. I don't need to know anything. You guys are going to handle it all.
So, anyway, any advice on marriage for the guy who's going toward that goal?
Yeah. Intentional time. So date nights for sure. Get me started, Cam. I've got gold. I just can't
I will say
put words
this.
on it yet.
And people know this, especially if like you value marriage the way that we do. Like your spouse is going to be, I truly do believe, like the most, outside of if you're religious or not, but it's going to be one of the most important decisions you make in your entire life. And for me, there was a part of it where I just got so lucky. Where like you asked the question, like, how'd you get Lexi on board? I never had to get her on board. Like, how does Lexi run a multi-million-dollar company where I don't really have to do much? Like, I don't know. I just got, maybe she can give advice to like the women out there of like, here's what you don't want. But like I got incredibly lucky. But I also think that we have done a really good job at every time we do get in a fight, and we did get in a fight today because we lost a kid, but we don't get in fights hardly at all anymore. But part of that is because we got in them all in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I was going with that.
Advice for a bachelor who's just about to get
So
married.
the spouse is the most important part. Yes.
And Miss Kate's pretty great, so he should be all right.
She is
You should be all
amazing.
right.
As
I
long
think
as you're
you're
not a jerk
already
to her.
set up for
Yeah, it's
success.
not-
Okay.
If anything goes wrong, it's Alex's fault.
So
is what we're saying.
I will say this.
Story of my life. Yeah.
is I pinch myself every day that I get to be married to Lexi. I legitimately do.
Wow.
Like I
I've
get
seen him. It's weird. He pinches
Yeah, I'm
the
just
weird
like,
spots on himself.
you're gonna be married to Lexi.
Yeah.
You get to be, but I truly am. I'm so thankful, and I think that's a huge part of it. Is like there's so many people out there that like all the grass isn't always greener. I know that. Like I don't know that because I've never. Okay, how do we get this out?
This whole like 5-minute segment has been useless of you talking.
right. Okay.
So
I don't
Okay.
know that, but I'm just saying.
There's-
Lexi is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I know
Cam.
that for sure.
I think there's some value
Does
in
that
just
make
being
sense?
being eternally grateful every day for what you have and not letting a marriage grow complacent.
I can't believe
Yeah.
I said it. Yes.
Yeah.
I
There's
just-
a lot
That's what he
there.
was trying to say.
Thank you.
So I'm even trying to
Much
think
more
of like
eloquent way to say it.
a one-liner for like this is it. Like this is the golden piece of advice for a bachelor going into marriage. There's so much. So I'm trying to think,
so
but like
I have something that did change our marriage, and it is a Christian like worldview, but I was listening to a sermon one time, and he talked about how people think in marriage that you guys should be perfectly aligned in everything, and you know should live happily ever after. Like that's the stereotypical like view of marriage of like, you know, we're gonna be perfectly aligned in everything. We're gonna live a fairy tale, yada yada yada. And the pastor said, if you truly believe in like growth and becoming, you know, in this case more like Christ, a lot of times you won't be that way, because how you grow is being outside of your comfort zone, if that makes sense. Or like how you become more like Christ. How do you become more loving, more forgiving, more, you know, less quick to anger. It's when somebody, like if Lexi fully complimented me in every single way, I would never grow. Like, to be honest, there are times where she makes me angry, but I wouldn't have the opportunity to grow if she never made me angry. I wouldn't have the opportunity to be like, this is actually a personal problem that I'm taking out on, like today, for instance, you know, we already talked about it, where it's like, this is a problem that I'm having that I'm going to take out on Lexi. That piece of advice changed my life. So like every time that which is, it's very few, it's usually Lexi forgiving me, but if I need to forgive Lexi, like it's an opportunity for growth. If Lexi is upsetting me in some way, it's an opportunity for growth of like, I'm going to be selfless in this instance. And so it's she probably has way more opportunity for growth in our marriage, because I'm the one that's screwing up a lot. But does that make sense at all?
Sure.
Is that
Sure. I get that.
you do? So that was something that I heard years ago that actually did change my view on marriage. It was almost made it more of like a game, being a Christian, where it was like every time that I was going to get angry, or every time I was going to be upset about something, it was like, no, this is an opportunity for me to grow as a person, where it's like, I'm going to learn how to control my emotions here. I'm going to learn how to forgive here. And so it turned, like, I'm competitive, so it gamified marriage, which it sounds really weird to say, but
Well, it's kind of like you go to the gym. It's the hard work and the adversity that builds the muscle. So in
Yeah.
the same way,
And-
I don't know anything about that. Alex
no,
does though.
in
The deadlift.
This is why people who
Huge
get
part of
plastic
this,
surgery don't like the way they're not happy,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to go and earn it.
if we're going to be completely honest on this, year 3, we started seeing a marriage counselor, because we were so fed up with each other. And part of that was we were 23 and 22 years old, you know, but we were like, we have to figure out like how, and you talked about this, don't give up. Like we did not, like we were like, we love each other, but we also kind of don't like each other right now. So
yeah.
we started seeing a marriage counselor, and that changed our lives, because he took us through like this wheel of communication, and like one of the things that I was so bad at was like is being in marriage. One of the beautiful things about being married is like, you know, like the deepest, darkest parts of people, which can also, when you're a bad person, you can use that to hurt somebody. And at times, like, we would use that to hurt each other, or it's like, hey, I know exactly what will set you off, and I'm going to use that right here to set you off. And so we started seeing a marriage counselor that took us through here's how you communicate and do it, you know, respectfully and lovingly. And it changed our marriage.
Can I tell a little story? I know you wanted to have them give me advice, but you guys all got married at like 12 years old.
Right.
So what do you guys know about dating?
Yeah, this is a great point.
So before I met Miss Kate, I read this book that I will, if you're friends with me for any amount of time, you'll hear me talk about all the time, called Anna Karenina, this 1800s Russian philosophy.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's bleak and long, 900 pages or something, which is what I like. And it's about this woman who, you know, you drop into the story and she's sort of dogging on her husband, and then her family is telling her like, yeah, he's garbage, you should leave. Which, you know, in 1800 Russia's leaving divorce is not that cool. So it's a big deal. And this goes on for a little while, and then finally she finds another guy, and then she kind of definitely leaves because she's having this affair and she's going to run off with the other guy. And so then she's happy. And so because the book is written the way it is, you think like, oh, she solved it. But then you realize you're like, I'm only halfway through this book, so something's coming. And then a couple years goes by and she starts getting bored. And she starts fussing. And she starts fussing all the people around her. And then all the people around her are like, well, if he's a piece of garbage, then you should leave. And I'm making a very quick like summary of it. And then, so she kind of leaves. And then the book ends quite tragically. And the lesson is like, the lie, the fuss, the venting or whatever that you do, and the complacency and the thing that you're like, well, the grass is greener on the other side. Those sort of components become like venting to other people. Well, that becomes their truth. And then they tell that truth back to you. Like you said he wasn't good, so if he's not good, you should leave. And then you believe that truth when it comes back to you, and then you act on it. And so what I learned with Miss Kate, I was like, I had just read that book, and I was like, okay, I'm never, ever, ever going to speak ill, right? I'm never going to put myself in this position where I'm like, oh, I'm either bored or just unhappy or any of these things. Like, it's like, just keep going.
Keep going.
Just keep going. It'll work out.
And I would say this. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I feel like I think at the beginning where we were just kind of chatting before we even started recording, you might have recorded it, where I was like, I'm a 10 or something like that, and Lexi was like, you are, and you're like Lexi's you made a joke about that, but Lexi has learned how to like speak my love language, where she has been, and she's so good at it. She's so amazing at making me feel loved, accepted. Oh no, I'm not going to do it. I will do it.
Oh boy. Now
you have
I'm
to do it.
nervous.
No. This is deep. This is like emotional. When I was 21 years old, I went through a period of panic attacks and I thought I was never going to get out of it. I was like, this is my life. Literally, I was like borderline, like ready to be done. And I remember telling Lexi, like, I'm scared that I'm never going to be normal again. I was having panic attacks every single day. I was like, I'm scared that this is it for the rest of my life. And I remember she held me and was like, no matter what, I'm here. No matter what, like we are together and I'm here. And that's been our entire marriage. Like, oh, let's move to St. Louis and start a real estate company. Done. Didn't have to convince her. Like, let's do it. Let's move to Maui, and figure it out. Done. Let's do X, Y, and Z. Like, she's always been, what the corny term, ride or die. Like, she has always been that.
I'm your ride or die.
Yes.
Wow.
So all that to say, I can't put it really into words.
Sure. Well, let me fire that at you, Lexi, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
He's been very, complimentary of you being
Yeah.
his support, right? And that's good. 'Cause
Yes.
Like, is there a reason you are that way besides just that's your nature to be a kind person? Because I know you're just a kind person, but are you reciprocating something that he's doing to you? Do you feel like where does that come from? You're like, I'm gonna stick with you no matter what.
Oh
Where
yeah,
does that come
definitely.
from?
I don't know. I can't put words on it either, but I have been a Cameron fan since day one. And we're going back and forth like really complimentary, but no, I'm being serious. Like, he has a vision and an idea. I'm like, yes, I can get behind that. I want to get behind that. He says, let's move to Maui. Yes, I'm 100%. Like, what he's saying is true. And I don't know how to put words to it, but yeah, I have been a huge Cameron fan. In high school, it was the abs that got me. I'm not going to lie about that. It was the abs. But I mean,
now I don't have abs, so there's something else. We're not showing them now. I do not have abs.
We've come a long way since then, and it's not just the abs anymore. It's much more than that. But
Do you think it was the abs, or was it he showed
the confidence
commitment and confidence to get abs?
Ooh.
It was the
I have a theory on
confidence
this,
to show them off.
Yeah, okay.
did show
Yeah,
them
there
off.
you No, I think there's something to this,
It
right?
was the confidence.
So I've joked this about beards, where a lot of women find beards attractive. And I always say it's not that beards are attractive. It's that in order to grow a beard, you have to be consistent for a long time, like years. And that appeals to the soul of a lot of women, is they want the consistency. Abs are the same thing. You do not get abs on accident. It
Right.
shows consistency, it shows commitment, and it shows like a commitment to hard work, which appeals to the biological nature of just humans saying, I'm going to commit to that. So that's why I actually think abs are attractive. I think biologically we're wired to healthy people because it shows commitment to a hard thing. That's my theory.
Definitely. 100%.
There was a podcast I listened to that was from some, billionaire CEO, and he talked about, which is so terrible, but he talked about how a lot of his employees are jacked, muscular, and he said that it's a little bit by design because that shows discipline in an area of their life. Like they are disciplined in this, and so if they can be disciplined in one thing, they can be disciplined in everything. I don't have abs anymore though, so
That's
It's kinda
okay,
like
babe.
You can dodge
That's
a wrench,
okay.
you can dodge a ball.
exactly. Like if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
It's from Dodgeball.
Great.
Gotta
Thank
explain
you.
pop culture, Alex. Or in Anna Karenina.
Anna Karenina.
Yeah, whatever. Russian literature over here. I'm watching Dodgeball with Vince Vaughn.
I've seen dodgeball too. I'm multifaceted. I don't have kids, so I spend a lot of time doing a lot of silly things.
All right, guys. Let's move toward wrapping this show up. But the few questions that we ask, I ask, and now today we ask a lot of people. First one is this. What are three things, and you can do three combined if you want, so maybe one of you have, we'll be here for an hour. What are three things you've done in the past year that's given you a better life? So three things combined. You each take one, and one can be a group one, or you choose how you want to spread out the three. The last 12 months, tactical things you've done in your life that has improved your life, given you a better life.
Do you want to go first, or I can, if you want to think about it?
You can go first.
Okay. So, and this is easy. We realized that we, going back to the whole real estate talk, we were doing a ton of volume and we were working a ton of hours. So, it was a lot of hard work. To do what we did, we were working probably both, 12 to 14 hour days every single day. And we realized we got into real estate to be able to spend more time together, and now we're making all this money and we're building a really high net worth, but we're not being able to really do what we want with it. And we realize we've built this monster, but we can't control it. And so we made a commitment that we were going to work on systematizing that monster. And so over the last year, we have hired some key hires to help us out, and they've been incredible. And we use the disc to help with that, by the way. But we've made some really key hires that has allowed us a lot more freedom to be able to spend time as a couple and to spend time as a family together. And so that was probably the start of 2022 that we started really focusing on who are the people that we need to hire to get us out of our, for lack of a better term, day job. And we focused on that. And so that was one of the things that led us to a better life, to let us to living here right now.
Mine is going to be pretty simple, but I feel like it's a huge life hack, and that is waking up early and taking control of the morning, especially being a mom and doing business. My nights are not always straightforward. Sometimes kids are not going to sleep the way that I want. And so waking up early, an hour before the kids wake up, and brain dumping everything, all my to-dos for the day, getting them all on the whiteboard, sorting through them, and just kind of planning out my day before it starts almost. So that's really simple, but that has been a life hack for me. Wake up an hour before my kids.
Do you have just to add to that, do you do anything the night before? Do you look at your schedule and you start planning the morning from the night before?
Yeah, what I do at night is I schedule send emails. So when I have to work late at night sometimes when kids are already down for bed, and that's really straightforward and a quick tip, but like I schedule send emails to send out the next morning. So anything that's left at the end of the day, because no matter what, I have to pick my kids up from school at 4 o'clock at night. So if I have 5 more emails to send out and I haven't got that done by the time I pick up my kids, I just schedule send those emails and they send out the next morning. Those are really practical, straightforward tips, but yeah, it's a time hack.
And then a third thing, I don't know if you do this as much as I do, but and we actually picked this up from Rich Fetke, who was also on the podcast.
Amazing dude.
Loved him. And if you remember the very first Maui Mastermind, he took us through this exercise where he was like, close your eyes and the future self. And one of the things that I do every single day is I go visit our future life, which sounds so weird when I say that out loud, but like I will have a cup of coffee and I'll literally go visit myself in 10 years and I will talk to him. And we'll talk about Lexi and I's marriage. We'll talk about our kids and I. Like I'll envision Riley at 15, Callie at 13, Kate at 11. Talk about our relationship with them. We'll talk about health, business, and what that has done. Because obviously it's my future self, so everything's like perfect. I'm in good shape. I have a beautiful marriage. I have a great marriage with my kids. Our business is thriving. But what that's done for me during the day is like in real time is everything that I do is now subconsciously like through my future self lens, where it's like the way that I respond to my wife, like that's through like, no, in 10 years you and your wife still are madly in love with each other. With kids, like, no, your kids love you and they see you as a loving, gentle parent, not an angry, mean parent. With business, like, no, you run a successful business. And even with health, which health is probably where I'm lowest on the totem, like, but with health, it's like, no, you make the right decisions when it comes to food. You work out, and so that has helped me. And it sounds so like mystical a little bit, where I even feel weird saying it out loud, but I go visit my future self every single morning, and that allows me to live a better life.
Sets the tone for the day.
Yeah. Does that sound weird? Does that make sense? It does.
Yep. I mean, no.
Oh, you're
Super
freaking
weird.
weirdo.
No. I have a performance coach named Jason Dries, and he always talks about operating in certainty, and the idea being when you operate from a standpoint of I don't know what the future looks like, we'll just see, like this idea of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to succeed at this, I don't know if this business is going to thrive or my marriage is going to last. Then you're almost predicting and you're gambling with your future. And he pushes this idea of like operate in certainty, like I know what my business is going to do. I know what my marriage is going to do. And then by getting in that frame, that mindset that says I have an amazing marriage and I will in 10 years, I do, like that's where I'm headed. Then you make decisions in a positive frame or that's positive mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so now the decisions you make are because you're in the right mindset versus where the majority of the world operates in fear and uncertainty. The future self allows you to operate in certainty.
That puts like what I do every morning into like perfect verbiage, like where I go visit a person that loves his wife, loves his kids, has a thriving business, is healthy, is happy, and then I operate in that certainty of like that's who I am. That there's no doubt about that is who I am in 10 years, and because of that, it allows me to operate in a different, different way, and it leads to a better life.
That lines so well with what you say all the time about identity-based goal setting. I am. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why. In the Better Life Tribe, we always start our goal setting with I am. Like who are you and who do you want to be, and then setting goals around that, and then setting habits around that. So versus habits to actions to goals to, who you want to be or who you end up, which is opposite of what I think.
Yeah, and I created an I am list because of that. And there's a guy named Craig Rochelle who talks about declarative statements. And every morning I read them to myself, like I'm a great husband, I'm a great dad, and sometimes it might not be true.
Yeah.
But because I tell myself that every day,
Yeah.
like I act in that, like I'm happy. I'm healthy.
Yeah.
I act in that way. So
Yeah. That's cool, man. I love it. Hal Elrod in The Miracle Morning, which Hal's coming on the podcast soon, so is Jason Dries actually. But Hal talked about in The Miracle Morning where sometimes your mindset, your mind, your subconscious knows you're lying. If you were like, I am attractive and skinny with a 6-pack, and you're not, then your mind's like, yeah, this guy's a liar. So he talks a lot about this idea, or he mentioned something like, I am becoming somebody, right? That's a little bit different, nuanced way to say it. Is like, I'm becoming somebody with a 6-pack, because that can be an identity right now.
Yeah.
I am becoming somebody who is
That's
that.
good.
Yeah, so that's
I
kinda
like
cool to
that
do
because if I in my head tell myself a goal, but I know I'm so
Yep.
far off from that goal,
don't believe yourself.
I give up.
Yep.
I give up. I'm like,
becoming. I like
ooh,
that.
I
I'm
can't.
becoming. Yeah,
But
who
the
are
I'm
you?
becoming changes it.
Let me
I
ask you
like
another
that a
question.
lot.
Who are you becoming?
ooh,
Lexi, who are you becoming?
I am becoming. That's a really good question.
A Hawaiian resident.
Well,
Hawaiian resident.
Becoming a
Yes.
resident.
a Hawaii resident who has great relationships with her kids and finds balance in the career world and being a mom.
Cam, who are you becoming?
I am becoming the only thing I care about in life. It sounds so bad because it takes business aside, but I want to be a great husband, a great dad, and a great friend in that order. And if business goes well during that, awesome. But I'm becoming a great husband, a great dad, and a great friend.
I love it. All right. 3 books that have made a shift or a massive impact on your life.
Rich
You
Dad,
guys
Poor Dad
ran it,
started me. Did you know I was going to say that?
No, I thought you were going to say rental property. And
Oh,
No,
clearly
that was
all of my books.
well, that was going to
Rich
be
Dad,
my
Poor Dad.
second
Okay.
because
Oh, wow. But we should give.
You
Rich
can't
Dad,
even
Poor
win on
Dad
your
is-
own show.
No, I know I can't.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah.
and then this one might sound weird, but Storyworthy. Have you heard of this?
No way. I talk about that book all the time.
Do you really?
I
Maybe.
absolutely love that
Okay,
book.
yeah, Storyworthy.
Yeah, Matthew Dix.
Yes,
love
it
that
is. I got it on. The best way I read books is with the audio version and the physical book.
heard
It
that's
just
the best way.
soaks
Yeah,
in
I know, I've heard that
way
many
better.
times.
So I did that with Storyworthy, and yeah, he shed some great light on just writing down a story a day, and I think what a great way to get content for
Yeah, that idea
you know.
of writing a lesson every day. Like
Yes.
One lesson was life changing.
Yes.
Yeah, the idea being, for those who haven't read the book, you should read it. The idea was, and he has a name for it, I can't remember what it is, but the idea being every day just spend a quick 30 seconds going, what was memorable about today? Just a couple of keywords. Our brains are amazing. Our minds are these supercomputers that remember every single thing that we've ever done, almost entirely. It's all stored up in here. And the way you know that, like, you ever have, like, you know, you're at the mall and you see some little kid and you're like, oh yeah, that triggered a memory from when I was 7. It's because it's still in there, but we have to unlock them, and you unlock them with these keywords. And so I might say, I mean, just thinking today, right? So today we're recording this on Easter evening, right? And so, like, what did we do today? Losing Cade at church was a moment today, right? But that's a story. Yeah, it was not always a good moment, but I'd write down, like, you know, Cade, Easter church, lost him. I might just lost, right? And now,
Yeah.
any like 50 years from now, I can go back and be like, Cade, Easter, lost.
You know.
And boom, memory's back.
This
Yeah.
entire day's back.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
Storyworthy. Great.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
book.
Lexi packed 350 eggs for 10 kids.
Yes, that was a lot of eggs. Good job.
Sorry about that,
It's so
guys
many
that had to hide them.
Yeah. Great answer. For me, I would say one of my favorite books that I've read. It's called The Happiness Advantage. It's by a guy named Sean Acor. And it basically talks about leading from a place of happiness, like being a leader. So going back to like the DISC or the Enneagram, like I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, I'm a high I on the DISC. Like I love people, and I never want to lead from a place of fear. I want to create an environment where the people around me love me and appreciate me and want to be around me. And so the Happiness Advantage, I love that book. Another phenomenal book, Good to Great, which I feel like is a lot of entrepreneurs like that. They love that book, but that book was I love that book. And then I would say for number 3, I love The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I think that's John Mark Comer. He's written so many. What's the not the Garden of Eden? What's the
Garden City?
Garden City. I mean, I love John Mark Comer.
About the Sabbath.
Which I think that's just so important for anybody. And the Garden City is around the Sabbath, where it's like, hey, when you set aside a day to spend with your kids and with your family and to like, to hang out and spend time together, it's so healthy for the rest of your week. And so, but same with like the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's right along those lines, where it's just such a great book. And
John Mark's on my list as well for the podcast.
Is he?
Yeah.
If he's
I'm going to
listening-
ruthlessly attack until he agrees to come on the show.
But I think that's so important for like marriage and for like I said, the things I want to be is a great husband, a great dad, and a great friend. And when I can be fully present in those situations, that's when that happens. And so that book has radically changed my life.
Same. All right, guys. Well, that's all we got for today.
Love
This
it.
has been, I think, our longest podcast to date.
Uh-oh.
And I mean that in a good way.
How long has it been?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Who cares?
Who knows?
But I do thank you guys for being here today. I'm gonna let you wrap up with, where would you like people to best connect with you at?
Ooh.
Lexi?
Don't connect with us ever.
No,
Stay
that's
away
not
from
what we
us.
want. Right now, Instagram, it's lexi.houses, but you have a different
Yes.
account than I do.
Instagram
so you
is by far the best way to connect with us. Cam.Cathcart, CATHCART. That's going to be the best way to connect with us at the moment. So
I never knew how to say your last name until you just said it right now.
for real.
I've just avoided saying your last name.
Well, it's like Carhartt. It's confusing, but it's not
Cathcart,
Carhartt.
I always wanted Carhartt.
Cathcart.
Cathcart.
Yeah,
Cathcart.
actually, my
Never
family
said it out
owns
loud, though.
Carhartt, so
Cathcart.
It cracks me up.
I'm the guy. I'm a high I. I want to be liked, so I will refuse to say anybody's last name or even first name.
First names
Have I
if you
ever
don't know
referred
'em?
to? Yeah. Have I ever even said either your first names? I'm not sure.
Oh,
I don't ever
maybe
wanna screw up.
not.
I'm so afraid of screwing up a first name. I don't call people by their first name, even friends.
Yeah.
That's not true. You've
So-
been calling
so-
them Cam
so-
and Lexi all night.
No,
I
no.
love she's buying it. She's
No,
like,
no,
no.
Is that true?
Is
Is
a
that
pastor.
Okay, on this show, I know them well.
Is a pastor
Okay.
one of the techniques? Because that happened all the time where I'm like, I've met you
Yep.
20 times, but I don't remember your first name.
Hey,
So what
bud.
I would always do is I'd call somebody else over and be like,
Yeah.
hey,
Oh, I
have
do it
you
with Heather
guys
all the time.
have you guys
Yep.
met yet? And then they would introduce their names, and I'd be like, done.
Me and
Now
Heather
I've
have a
got-
game we play. I'm going to reveal it to everybody right now. So Heather and I, whenever we go to any event whatsoever, I get recognized a lot, and I never know, do I know this person really, or is this somebody that just knows me, right? So we have
Yeah,
a game. Is if I say to Heather, hey, this is my wife Heather, or no. If I say this is Heather, then I will always introduce her to the person I know their name. If I don't introduce Heather, she will butt in and be like, "Hi, I'm Heather."
Oh,
and then they
that's
will always
good.
say their name to her. And so if Heather buds in, and then I look kind of foolish, like, "Oh, sorry, I'm bad at introducing." So now anybody that listening to this might be like, "Hey, Brandon's done it to me."
He
Brandon
did
did
that
that.
to me.
Yeah, I didn't know your name. That's why.
But no, it's I get it because I do not memorize first names well. So
Same.
that's it right there.
All right, guys.
Hey,
Well,
it was
Alex,
a
where can
blast.
people find more about you?
Me?
You,
Instagram, Alex Scott Felice.
Alex Scott. Is that your middle name,
Yeah.
or is that like your first name, second half of your
First.
first name?
I told the kids today in the pool. I was like, they said somebody said, called myself Uncle Alex to all the kids, and they're like, why are you Uncle Alex? Because I'm obviously not any of their uncles. And I was like, I told them, I said, my first name is Uncle and my middle name is Alex.
There you go.
And they totally believed it. So
That is,
You can lie to kids.
Simple.
by the
Yeah.
way, sorry, I'm extending this a couple seconds, but one of my favorite parts about Hawaii is like going to the park and kids calling me uncle.
Hey, uncle.
It's
Yeah.
like
An
it's
auntie.
so
Oh,
endearing. It's
I
like,
love being
uncle,
auntie.
I'm like, yes, I am your uncle. Like I will do whatever you want. You want
Auntie
snow
and uncle.
cones, you want
Yeah,
presents.
anything. You know why that
And then-
started? Because Hawaiian culture was very like everybody's family. Ohana, right, is this term for like family, and like we are all in this together. And so yeah, every other adult, like female, like that's your auntie. And so at the grocery store, I'll be like, thanks, auntie. Like that's what people say to like a lady checking out, the
That
grocery store.
happens all the time at the
Very
park
endearing.
with kids where they call me uncle, and I'm like,
Yep.
done.
I love
whatever you want. It's
Yeah.
So funny.
I am
All right,
your
guys.
uncle.
I love
So-
you both. Thank you for coming on today. I'm excited that you guys joined the Maui Real Estate Mastermind back in the day, that we got to know each other that way, and that you are moving to my town and maybe even my street. We got to find you a house up here.
We might even live.
You might even live in my
In your
house.
in my
backyard.
sea shed.
Yes.
There's
Done.
There's room for a bed.
That's my studio.
Love it. Thank you so much for having us. I
Thank
think
you.
It was a blast.